Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Welcome to the second day of our National Microinsurance Forum, Facing Uncertainty Through Strategic Innovations. Again, I'm Junjay Perez of MIBAP, and I will be your facilitator for this morning session. Masaya po tayo na kasama pa rin natin ang iba't ibang microinsurance stakeholders mula sa ating mga microinsurance MDA, lalo na ang ating mga nanay sa iba't ibang bahagi ng Pilipinas, mga microfinance players, government partners, insurance companies, technical partners, mga kasama natin from the Asia and Oceania Association of the ICMIF, and other guests. Thank you for sticking with us in the second day of the forum. This event is being organized by the Microinsurance MBA Association of the Philippines, also known as Resiliency. And today, I can see that we are around 400 participants, including those who are joining in the Facebook Live. Mas konti tayo sa more than 500 participants kahapon, pero I hope they will be able to join us in our sessions today. Muli, we would like to acknowledge and thank our major sponsors for generously supporting this event. Maraming salamat, One CISP, BPI AMTC, Card MBA, CPMI, Globe Business, NATRI, PhilCare, and RMSI. Para po sa ating mga technical reminders, the participants' mic will be put on mute. If you wish to speak, you can use the raise hand, virtual raise hand, or yung ating Zoom chat box. Please use yung mga reaction button natin to respond to our resource persons and facilitators. And please maintain your camera on as much as possible para sa ating better interaction. And itong session na to is recorded for future reference and playback. We encourage everyone also to ask questions. Mamaya marami po tayong may mga panel discussions tayo. Again, you can raise hand or ask your questions via chat. Para dun sa ating mga active sa social media, pwede natin gamitin yung hashtag na NMI Forum 2022. And you may want also to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Doon po natin i-upload yung recording ng ating mga sessions. Okay, our morning session is divided into three parts. We have a panel session, then a feature presentation on the investment market, and finally another feature presentation on the social and economic benefits of microinsurance. Ready na ba tayo sa ating panel discussion this morning? Pwede bang makita ang ating mga reaction? Okay, maraming salamat. Before we proceed to the panel discussion, muna tayo, quick trivia tayo. Si-share sa atin ni Judith yung ating question on screen. Judith, pwede natin pakita? Okay, salamat. Ito po, dahil lang pag-usapan natin ay mga micro, small, and medium enterprises. According sa 2020 list of establishments ng Philippine Statistics Authority, blank percent ng lahat ng businesses sa Pilipinas ay micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSMEs. Okay. Sige. 28% pa lang. Pwede bang humabol yung ating ibang mga kasama? Okay. Siguro abutin natin 50%. Okay, it's 50%. Sige, pakita natin yung results, Judith. Okay. Ang nakakuha po ng tamang sagot na 99.51% ay 14% lang po. Marami pa yung kailangan malaman natin tungkol dito sa ating mga MSMEs. Kaya maganda pag-usapan po ito. So yung tamang sagot po ay 99.51%. Okay, maraming salamat sa inyong participation. Speaking of MSMEs, according to a survey of the International Labor Organization in 2020, they represent more than 70% of global employment and 50% of gross domestic product. And they are being hit the hardest by the fallout of the pandemic. The effects on business continuity, labor force, revenues, and occupational health and safety has been and continue to be devastating. And solutions are needed to give them the support they need to survive and continue to contribute to the economy. At ito yung magiging paksa ng ating panel session ngayong umaga. Okay, to introduce our moderator, he has a solid background in working with micro-entrepreneurs, and he's the Executive Director of the Microfinance Council of the Philippines, the National Association of MFIs. Before joining MCPI in 2004, he was part of the Micro-Enterprise Access to Banking Services that assisted rural banks in developing financial products, services to the poor and low-income households. He's an accredited social performance management and client protection assessor. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our moderator for this session, Mr. Allan Sicat.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga. It is a pleasure and a privilege to moderate this session on supporting micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises, or MSMEs, for greater resiliency in bouncing forward. So almost 2 years into the pandemic na tayo, di ba? But the Philippines is facing another COVID-19 surge, fueled by the Omicron variant. And from the very beginning of the pandemic, MSMEs, especially yung mga micro-entrepreneurs, yung mga sinaserve nating clients, both for microinsurance and microfinance, are struggling to cope with the crisis. So even as the world has been focused on COVID-19, natural calamities continue to pose a major hurdle in our poverty reduction efforts with greater unpredictability and severity. So last December 2021, Typhoon Odette was the 15th storm to hit the country and was the strongest storm of the year in the Philippines that affected more than 8 million persons in the Philippines in 11 regions in the country. We also cannot overlook yung Typhoon Maring that caused floods in northern Luzon last October 2021. Micro enterprises and small businesses are being hit hardest by the pandemic, compounded by calamity risks, a combination ng pandemic and calamities. The purpose of this session is to explore solutions and appreciate the initiatives that are needed for greater resiliency of MSMEs, especially micro entrepreneurs against pandemic and climate risks. So before I introduce our keynote presenter for today, we would like to watch this video. Go ahead, Aleli. Walang sound, Aleli.
Hold on po.
Back the economy, then many of our Filipino brothers will.
Kalahating milyong maliliit na negosyo na ang nagsara.
Sana kami kukuha ng panggastos namin.
Hindi na kaya. Wala na, hindi ko na alam kung ano gagawin namin.
If we don't bring back the economy, then many of our Filipino brothers will suffer, and that's our goal, to really push hard. I believe with the assurance that we are really on top of the situation and finding all means to really help, we will win this war.
Our whole objective is to really focus on test, and that will give us more visibility, and the government will be allowed to open up more of the economy.
Aarangkada na po sa Agosto 15 ang unang sabak ng Pilipinas sa tinatawag na pool testing para sa COVID-19.
So this pool PCR testing is another format that we will now introduce. What it gives you
It brings down the cost of testing because you will use less test kits. You increase the capacity of the RT-PCR.
Through the show of unity and selflessness, which we refer to as the Bayanihan spirit, we are demonstrating to the world that although the pandemic knocked us down, we will rise up and come together as one.
These vaccines are really the way forward in helping our Filipino people save lives and livelihoods.
Let's go bakuna. Bakit bakuna importante sa tao? Upang maging ligtas lahat protektado. Bata't matanda dapat tayo'y kalmado. Huwag tayong matakot pa, bakuna na tayo. Let's go, bakuna. Angat lahat. Let's go, bakuna. Angat lahat. Let's go, bakuna.
Bakuna bubble ang isinusulong ng mga negosyante para isalba sa pagkamatay ang napakaraming industriya.
Let's understand that we are not here to ground the unvaccinated. We are protecting you. We're protecting your life and allowing the vaccinated to go out, spread money so that makakatulong yung ibang negosyante. Also launched a campaign, basically Vax to the Max, to trying to show the vaccine levels, the percentage of fully vaxxed in each area, so that other areas will also get inspired to really ramp up vaccination.
Ito po ay gagamitin namin sa aming negosyo na tapsilugan. Salamat po ulit!
The Philippines definitely will not be left behind in this fight.
This is Bayanihan. And let us win this war and save lives and livelihood.
Our keynote presenter for today is the founder of the Philippine Center for Entrepreneurship, Gonegosyo. As founder of Gonegosyo, Joey believes in the importance of cultivating an optimistic mindset and persevering attitude. Joey and his colleagues in Gonegosyo are committed to help alleviate poverty by empowering entrepreneurs and eventually transform the Philippines into an enterprising nation. Gonegosyo has also become an inspiring and motivational movement that empowers the Filipino with entrepreneurship education as the way to succeed in life and business. Joey was appointed as Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship by President Rodrigo Duterte to help in MSME development. He is well known for his contributions to the MSME sector, leading various entrepreneurship programs that help small businesses thrive. Joey was also the chairman of the Business Advisory Council in 2017. In the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Philippine business sector, led by Joey as a presidential advisor for entrepreneurship, conceived Project ART that pushes for COVID-19 testing innovations. Its mission is to make massive testing accessible and affordable in the workplace and in communities to save jobs, lives and livelihoods. Joey Concepcion also led the A Dose of Hope initiative that secured millions of doses of the COVID-19 vaccine to the country. It was a tripartite agreement joined by the private sector, the government, and the vaccine manufacturer. Its goal is to secure supplies for the government as the demands continue to increase around the world. So even in his early years, Joey actively took part in nation building. He was awarded as one of the 10 outstanding young men of the Philippines in 1995 and was also recognized in the Time Global 100 list of young leaders of the millennium. Joey was also hailed by Forbes Asia as one of the 48 heroes of philanthropy in 2011 and was awarded by the Republic of India with the Padma Shri Award in 2018. Joey serves as the President and CEO of RFM Corporation, the Chairman of the RFM Unilever Ice Cream Corporation, and Director and Executive Committee member of Concepcion Industries, Inc. Ladies and gentlemen, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion.
Allan, is my signal clear? Is my voice clear?
Yes, we can clearly hear you, Mr. Concepcion.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. And thank you to Allan Sicat, Executive Director of the Microfinance Council, a long-time partner since we've started way back 16 years ago. Gonegosyo basically started 16 years. I was an advisor to President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo for the same role as helping basically focus on alleviating our small entrepreneurs, so mga micro, small, at medium enterprise, the MSMEs. And I'm glad that we have close to 500 people in this event. Lahat kayo are really very important in helping the entire ecosystem of the MSMEs, to move up. When President Duterte became president, he also asked me to become the trade secretary, but I felt that my role is best performed really out of cabinet as an advisor, voluntary, basically a non-paying job, a non-cabinet job, but with the ability to really align with the different secretaries in trying to come up with a well thought of planned program of helping our micro and small. And if you know, and you've been in this industry for many, many years, yun ang pinaka-challenging sector natin. In fact, yung mga malaking companies, for us to become successful, our products have to penetrate this market. Karamihan dito sa mga micro at small entrepreneurs natin are sari-sari stores, little retail stores, mga people selling the palengkes at different platforms. Kaya yung mga produkto nandyan sa mga tindahan na yan, if you're there, you're definitely a market player. So, mas madali magbenta dito sa mga malaking supermarket, pero dito sa mga maliit na retail store, syempre, limitado ang puhunan nila. So, they only buy the number 1 or number 2 brands out there. So, I've been at this for quite some time, and I more or less am quite familiar where the challenges are. And when we held the ASEAN event in the Philippines, yung 50 years celebration ng ASEAN, I happened to be the chairman. So our theme for that event was creating prosperity for all. And we can see that in the structure. Karamihan ng talagang successful companies are from the medium to the large companies. Yun ang mas successful. Dito sa bottom of the pyramid, which I call the same pyramid that you see in our social structure, from the wealthy to the poorest, it is the same with mga negosyante. So yung 99% of those at the bottom of the pyramid are basically micro and small entrepreneurs. And karamihan nun, as you know, are all mga nanays, women entrepreneurs. And that is common in many countries, especially those that are developing countries still, who are struggling, katulad ng Pilipinas, sa India, sa even Thailand, lahat yan. Halos pareho ang structure, ng mga babae are running these micro businesses. And they require the most support, and importante dyan. And that's why sa Gonegosyo, ang programa namin, we have partnered with, of course, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Trade and Industry, sila Secretary Mon Lopez, si Secretary Dara. Matagal na kami nagpa-partner dito. And what's very important is that we provide the basic framework. So yung kapatid mentoring program namin, KMME, and which is with DTI, and CAMP is which with Secretary Dar in Department of Agriculture. Basically, that falls under the what we call the 3M. So that's our framework, no? Basically, mentorship, money, and market. And by now, as enablers in this sector of micro and small entrepreneurs, syempre, you provide that necessary support, no? Whether it's in terms of insurance, in lending, marketplace, etc. Marami yan. Of course, you have to be viable also. You have to make money out of this for you to be able to sustain that kind of support. At ang nakikita natin dito, yung tatlong M's ang pinaka-importante. And as an entrepreneur myself, starting in basically high school, I started my business. Yung mentorship, importante yan. With us coming from schools, no, like La Salle, Ateneo, mga medyo schools that are well equipped, no, with better, mentors or teachers. Syempre may advantage yan, and some people who can afford send their children abroad, no. Pero dito sa sector ng micro at small, karamihan dito ay lacking in good mentors, no? Not to say that our public school system is really extremely poor, pero iba ang syempre yung quality versus the schools that are serving that special sector, no? Kaya importante dito yung mentorship. And normally, nakikita natin dito sa mga successful entrepreneurs, yung mga mentor nila, yung mga parents nila. Yun ang importante. Nakikita ko halos, we can look at Filipino-Chinese families lang alone, no? They're very successful. Is it because they're Chinese or they're Filipino-Chinese? No, because talagang the parents really make tutok yung tuturo sa mga anak nila from the very start, no? From as they just are born and they grow up and they're already given basic chores, and that is important, no? The parents mentorship. Now, syempre, marami dito sa mga below the pyramid, karamihan dyan, mga parents nila are either working abroad, no? So, isa pang limiting factor yan, no? The parents are sometimes out of the country and, of course, trying to earn a living to be able to put their children to better schools. And that becomes a challenge. That mentorship is missing, no? And it's also very important to have that. But nevertheless, kaya yung focus ng Gonegosyo at dito sa programa namin is really harnessing our mentors. At so far, we have about 700 mentors now, no, who have been helping us. Karamihan dyan, nagiging regional directors ng DTI rin, no? Kasi ang galing nila, no? So we don't mind that, no, because we keep recruiting mentors, and these mentors really come from different businesses. Some of them, sila pa rin ang may-ari ng mga negosyo nila, and on the side they are doing this work, no, to really mentor mentees. And to me, as an entrepreneur, my success basically, it would, if not for first my father, who is an entrepreneur who started the business, yan talagang was played a key role in my life, no? Pati dito sa pagtayo ng Gonegosyo sa kanya, during his time, he started NAMFREL, which was basically a group that was out there to watch and have the ballot, no, during the martial days, no. So yun ang role niya as NAMFREL. Pero in the end, I started Gonegosyo also in the same path, not protecting the ballot and and all of that, and for clean and honest elections, but here helping our micro and small entrepreneurs move up in life, no. Hindi pwede kasi yung Pilipinas, only 2% of the sector is large companies, pero halos the bulk of the wealth is in that sector. Kaya dito tumutulong rin ang mga malaking corporations sa Gonegosyo so that we can really cascade our efforts. Kasi if we are able to help our micro entrepreneurs improve and move up to bigger entrepreneurs, to small entrepreneurs, syempre lalaki yung base ng market rin ng mga malaking companies. So as you help this sector move up the chain from micro to small and eventually medium, then you're helping build and share the wealth, and you're helping increase the consumer spending of many people. So yun ang importante. We need to focus on creating prosperity for all, and not just for a few. And that is our basically mantra that we have been trying to do. And that's why I say, among all, mentorship is important. And mentorship does not stop with school, with your parents. Tuloy-tuloy yan sa mga kaibigan, sa mga people that you bring into your company. Importante rin yan. And you can see yung mga companies that really grow bigger is because they're properly guided. And that is basically mentorship. So on top of mentorship, the other area that we are really focusing on is money. And dito it is the biggest challenge for many of our micro and small entrepreneurs, money. And why is that so? Because what you in the microfinance institutions lend them is dependent on their ability to borrow money, to repay the loan. Importante rin yan kasi kung umutang sila, hindi sila magbabayad, di malulugi rin kayo at magsisarado rin ang mga microfinance institutions nyo. And this is how I got to know Dr. Alip. Matagal na kami magkasama dito nung unang-una pa. So I got to understand, the role of our microfinance institutions. Now, microfinance is important, and the flow of money and lending really has to continue. And maski may 5-6, alam ko marami rin dyan, 5-6, pero okay na rin yan kasi yung talagang high risk na borrower, I'm sure you will not lend them. But the 5-6 will take that chance. So ako, isang high, let's say, entrepreneur, medyo alanganin yung business ko, but I want to give a go at it. I will try to even borrow from somebody lending me at a high rate just to be able to, run my business. There's nothing wrong with that. I always believe that there is a role for everyone. But as I graduate and I'm able to start, katulad ng venture capital fund rin yan. We just call them venture capital funds. But the returns are also high because they invest in very high risk businesses. So they take that gamble and the fallout rate is very high. So to me, the flow of lending, okay lang yan. Whoever lends to the borrower that is willing to pay that rate. And as he grows, then he moves from basically this type of lending to MFIs, eventually kung lumalaki na siya, eventually to a rural thrift bank, and eventually to a commercial bank, etc., and a universal bank. So when you start borrowing money from the bigger banks, then you have arrived. So money is very important. Now, of course, in this challenging pandemic, and which will be something that I will share in a bit, it's hard to lend when the business is closed. The third M is market, and that is very important, the market. And kung walang market, useless lang, walang business. So importante is how we teach our entrepreneurs to identify the market. Karamihan dito ay me too, copying each one's business. And kung may karindira dyan, may karindira dyan, walang differentiator. So that's what we're trying to teach many of our entrepreneurs. You have to differentiate in whatever you do, whether it's a service you're selling or a product that you're selling. In my role, when I started our own company, I bought Cosmos Bottling, I bought Selecta Ice Cream, and we challenged the giants, but we couldn't just follow what they were doing. We have to differentiate. We have to differentiate in terms of pricing, in terms of taste, and other things. And it's very important that you create the differentiator. So kailangan turuan yan sa mga, you have to teach many of our entrepreneurs on differentiating. No? Madaling magtayo ng business, madaling magtayo ng sari-sari store, but what will make you different from that one beside you? How will you attract more customers? So this is what we are trying to do. So mentorship, money and market, 3 M's. To me, if yan ang focus ng grupo namin, we teach them, and especially now, the pandemic has done something also good for everyone. No? Ngayon, when GCash and PayMaya started, that was a struggle because I felt that how will we ever convince itong mga MSMEs natin, and even the Philippine consumers, to get a credit card? Kasi medyo takot sila sa credit card or they don't pass the credit card. Pero tingnan mo ang nangyari sa GCash and PayMaya, the e-wallet. So instead of looking at the credit card, the e-wallet took that role, no? And that further enhanced the development of digitalization in the Philippines, which allowed many of our MSMEs to have another alternative aside from offline. No? Offline, we call them either selling in supermarkets or traditional stores. Dito, you're selling in platforms, whether it's Lazada, Shopee, and other platforms. Whether now mga supermarkets may sarili ng platform, food deliveries, what do you call this, itong mga super kitchens, all of that. So the evolution of digitalization has progressed rapidly because we were all confined to staying at home. And the e-wallets took the role of credit cards. So malaking bagay yan. So without the e-wallet, kasi walang credit card, without the e-wallet, digitalization would have a difficult time. So I'm glad that, you know, PayMaya, and especially GCash, which has done extremely well, really enabled, no, both consumer and entrepreneur to be able to use these platforms through the e-wallet. So again, that is going to help many of our MSMEs because they are now able to reach the same market that we're trying to develop. And in the future, that is the way forward, you know, basically online. And natuturuan na rin natin dito on alternative ways of promoting their products. Dati, okay, we have to put ads in the radio stations, television stations. Dito ngayon, you can do it in Instagram, you can do it in Facebook, and so many other platforms, no, na may mga alternative na sila na tinuturuan natin how to market their services or their products through different online platforms. And with the e-wallet, all of that is being enhanced. So moving forward, we are on the right path. The pandemic, the good part, forced everyone to really go online, and the consumer and the entrepreneur now enabled the e-wallets to work. Hindi lang credit card, kasi medyo kukunti lang may credit card sa Pilipinas, pero the proliferation of all of these e-wallets, especially GCash and PayMaya, really enhanced, no, the ability to transact fast. And payment was a game changer. No? So I think that is how our entrepreneurs are going to pivot. Now, that's talking about what we're doing and how we're helping our MSMEs in a time like this. But the biggest problem that I see right now, and it's been we're now going to hit February. So the March of 2020 was the start of the pandemic, and will be 2 years in March. No? So Negosyo, and my role was I was forced to really move and help, no. Kasi useless lang eh. Kung sirado ang mga negosyo, paano you will not be able to lend money to these MSMEs. At you know, nahihirapan rin sila magbayad kung sirado ang mga negosyo nila. So yung mentorship program natin at with DTI and DA and Department of Tourism and DOC, tuloy rin yan, even during the last 22 months. Walang patid yan, tuloy-tuloy yan. We did more because online, dati offline lahat kami. We would fly down to different parts of the Philippines, take a plane, bring the mentors. Pero ngayon, iba na rin. Hindi na kailangan mag-rent ng hotel, bigyan ng pagkain.
Lahat ng mentors namin ngayon naka-online, everything is all organized, and we're able to do more mentoring. But the challenge is that if the economy remains closed, syempre, paano aandar itong mga maliit na negosyante? So from the very start, we have been active, and we showed you that short video on the different engagements that we did, from test kits to bringing the vaccines, etc., etc. So lahat yan, tumulong ng private sector. Kami ang unang bumili ng bakuna dito sa Pilipinas, yung AstraZeneca, the dose of hope. At sa tulong ni Secretary Galvez, kasi nung una, medyo nahirapan yung government bumili ng bakuna na hindi pa approved by FDA, no? In AstraZeneca, tawag nila sa UK, MHRA. Parang katumbas yan ng FDA natin dito. So it was the private sector. Sinugal namin close to a couple of 100 millions, no, pesos, no? And yung agreement namin with AstraZeneca, kung hindi makuha nila yung FDA or MHRA approval, we would have lost everything, all what we gave them. That's the risk. But we took it because the government cannot do that. That's against the law. And we did it. And it worked. No? AstraZeneca got their approval. We got the shipment, 17 million doses, kasama dyan ng LGUs. And sa tulong ni Galvez, we signed a tripartite agreement. So the first battle is that the first lockdown in March was the hardest lockdown. Buong Luzon, lockdown tayo lahat. Remember, I mean, lahat, hindi pwedeng lumabas, etc., etc. Talagang hard lockdown. So maraming tinamaan dyan. Palagay ko, marami sa your micro entrepreneurs and small entrepreneurs were hit hard. Even large corporations, lahat tinamaan, especially in those sectors, mga restaurants, mga tourism, lahat yan. Yung okay lang na swerte, those are in the food, agriculture, medicines, pharmaceuticals, all of that. Pero the rest talagang, and until today, 2 years anniversary na, tourism pa is still dead. No? Halos walang turista, lahat ng mga hotels talagang ginawang quarantine hotels. Kaya now, and for the past 1 year, I've been advocating that we have to change our mindset. Right now, I am in America. I'm in the United States. I decided to fly here with my kids to experience what it is to in America. And my friends have been telling me that things are different here. And true enough, it's a revelation na nakikita ko that cases are equal to Manila. Positivity rate here is at 25%. We're, I think, at about 30% positivity, which is very high. No? Pero people have masks. Everything is open. Walang sirado. I mean, yung basketball games nila dito sa NBA, bukas, thousands of people, all in mask. So they continue to live their life. No? Walang mga lockdowns dito. At in fairness, this area, at least people respect the following the protocols. So tayo naman dito, in America, all you need to do is to take an antigen test, and if you are negative, you can fly. Walang quarantine pagdating mo. And that's all for their tourists. No? Wala silang quarantine sa mga bumabalik na Amerikano, mga turista na pumupunta dito, walang quarantine. So tayo naman, we have the quarantine. No? And so that has really affected us. And I've been pushing, and we are continuing to push, kasama namin dito yung Okta Research. No? So what did we do last year na talagang helped the country? In August 8 last year, we called for the early lockdown. And why did we do that in August 8? Kasi gusto namin i-save yung fourth quarter last year. Yun ang pinaka-importanteng quarter sa tingin ko. Kasi kung tinamaan tayo ng last year in the fourth quarter, di talagang sapol tayo now, especially in January, February with Omicron. But clearly, our advisor of the research predicted it well that if we do an early lockdown, we will be able to save the fourth quarter. And nakita natin, talagang bumagsak ang mga kaso starting October all the way till November. Sumipa lang siya dahil sa New Year, Christmas festivities kasi tumaas yung mobility. At wala naman masama dyan kasi kailangan may mobility tayo. Kasi kung walang mobility, then there is no economic activity. Remember, mobility matches economic activity. Siyempre, kung lalabas ang tao, gastos, siyempre, there is where you have economic activity. But if everybody is at home and nobody is going out, you will not have any economic activity because nobody is going to ride the bus, nobody is going to go to office, wala pupunta sa restaurant, wala pa mag-shopping. So mobility will not enhance economic activity. So the strategy is correct. We push for vaccination. That was the most important weapon. And until today, it's vaccination and boosters. Pareho lang yan. Yung bakuna at booster, pareho lang yan. Same vaccine that you're taking. Pero that's the most important because what it does, and this is our, you know, in the private sector, and I always share this with the government, we have foresight. We are trained. You are trained to have foresight. You prepare projections. So yun ang ginawa ng Octa at Gonegosyo at the time. We had a projection. Save the fourth quarter. We saved the fourth quarter. Kaya marami dyan na maliit na negosyante naligtas. They were able to pay the 13-month pay. They were able to pay suppliers because of that effort of really having the foresight to lock down early. Cases went down. People started to have more confidence in going out. So even now in the first quarter, when they wanted to bring alert level 3 to alert level 4, sinasabi ko sa mga kasama ko dyan sa IATF, there's no need. Kasi takot ang tao lumabas dahil ang biglang tumaas dito ang Omicron. Sinasabi nila, let's lock down in our borders. We did, but pumasok rin. You cannot stop these variants from coming to the country. Once it starts, it will hit you. So, yung pagtaas yung mobility ng fourth quarter, syempre, mas marami na lumabas and the risk was higher. Kaya carry over to the first quarter, bumagsak naman ang mobility kasi mahina naman ang first quarter this year kasi normally ubus na ang pera ng mga consumers after Christmas and mobility goes down, and as mobility goes down, you will see cases going down, and that's what we're seeing right now. So what my group is really trying to do is we have to open up the economy safely, and that is important. There are always risks that we have to take. It's impossible to you can do it without risk, and these are what we call well thought of risks that we take, and that's why importante dito. And you see our passion in trying to convince those who have to be vaccinated, because vaccination will protect people from severe infection and basically death. Kita natin yung sa mga diary namin, we come out with all of this news that the unvaccinated are of the greatest risk at this point in time. Kita yan sa hospital, lahat. 85% to 90% of those in the hospitals are unvaccinated. Siyempre may mga vaccinated dyan na they get seriously ill, and these are those in the 65 to the 80-year-old people. So yun, mga seniors are at higher risk, even if you're vaccinated. Pero most of those in the hospitals are unvaccinated. Hindi lang sa Pilipinas, sa buong mundo, that's the same thing. Kaya yung programa ng private sector government is vaccinate to the maximum, vax to the max. And now it's boost to the max, booster shots ngayon. So we have to do this, no? And for us to open up the economy and allow people to, if they get exposed, they get sick, especially with Omicron, karamihan ng mga kaso ng Omicron is mild, no? Of course, if the older you are, the riskier it is, and you can get severe infection even if you're vaccinated, if you're in your very senior years, no? So, but those are the risks that we have to take to open up the economy so that other people, your customers, your entrepreneurs, your micro and small entrepreneurs, pwede mabuhay. Kung hindi, lahat tayo, we will not survive. And so, we are pushing this. We are now going to write a letter to the IATF, asking them to bring back the quarantine
to 3 days. Kasi nandiyan na yan for people arriving from abroad. Dati, we brought it down to 3 days. Tinaas lang yan sa 5 days dahil sa Omicron. Eventually, we want to scrap all of this quarantine and simplify the whole process. So we have to do this. We have to now start learning to live with COVID. And I'd like to share with you good news. I think what's important sa mga maliit natin na negosyante is we must always give them hope. No? The moment you destroy their hope, then everything is lost. And that's why I'm saying that this year, the year 2022, we will see, and we are starting to see Omicron drop. The latest report during our town hall meeting with Octa, Guido David reports that he believes by Valentine's Day, that period, middle of February, we will see the cases really drop to its lowest levels, which is good. Even with high cases, hindi na puno ang hospital natin. That's good. That shows you that Omicron in general are mild. Siyempre may mga severe rin dyan, pero karamihan ay mild. So maski tumaas halos ng 30,000 at the peak, close to lampas na 30,000, hindi na puno ang hospital. Moderate lang ang level ng capacity ng hospital. So kaya natin. So moving forward, we're pushing for moving to alert level 2. That's what we're going to ask. We're asking them to shift back the quarantine to 3 days instead of 5 days. We're asking them to eventually down the road scrap the quarantine. Pero sa tingin ko, hindi na kailangan kasi may Omicron sa Amerika, may Omicron sa Europe, may Omicron tayo dito. So what are we trying to do? I mean, we all have Omicron. So why don't we just allow and just make sure that everybody who arrives here is fully vaccinated so that kung makasakit sila, hindi magiging malubha. So that is the simple way of running it. So that's why vaccination is still very important. So in this year, 2022, I believe we will be able to bounce back. So lahat ng programa natin that are here helping our MSMEs, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yan. But we have to open up. Kasi even if we mentor them every day and you teach them and you help them enter the marketplace, useless lang yan kung sirado ang economy natin. Walang mobility. So we have to open up. Yun ang basic. I mean, you have gasoline in the car, but if there's no road to drive, useless lang. So we have to open up the economy. There is no if or but. And if we don't open up the economy, masisira yung economy ng Pilipinas. Our debt to GDP is already hitting 60%, no? And that's serious. The moment you're above 60%, you're dead ball. I mean, we are not like America that we can print money. America, maski mag 70-80%, okay lang yan. Bibili pa natin yung dollar nila. Pero dito sa atin, ibang klase. We are not a rich nation, no? At yung gastos natin dito sa mga health initiatives, sa mga test kits, mga medisina, mga bakuna, trillion yan. Is that going to give us greater productivity? No, that's just allowing us to coexist with COVID. That's not giving us any financial return. And worst part is that if we continue to be on lockdown, how will the national government survive? Where will they get their revenues? Kung tayo mismo, hindi tayo magbabayad ng tax kasi lugi ang negosyo natin. So kung lahat ng MSMEs lugi, lahat ng large corporations baksak ang income, siyempre, yung income ng mga LGU at national government, baksak rin yan. At lalagan ng utang natin. So, babalik tayo sa dark ages na naman tayo sa the way back when we were really borrowing money and paying interest. Ang tataas pa rin ang interest rate, ha? It's gonna go up. So, tatamaan tayo as we borrow money. So, this is what we want to stop. And that's why I have rallied the private sector to support us. We're going to move and push hard that IATF will really have a change in mindset. And this is the only way that we really can help our MSMEs. Anyway, maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, PA Joey. No? Maraming salamat sa patuloy na pagsuporta ating mga MSMEs and for not letting MSMEs behind this fight. We hope you can still join us for a few more minutes for the next part of this session. We'll have two reactors who will provide quick insights to your presentation or speech. But before I introduce our two reactors, we'll have a quick picture taking with PA Joey. May I request our two reactors, Dr. Alip and Dr. Yedra, together with PA Joey to turn on your videos for the virtual photo op. Sige, may I request Aleli to let us know kung okay na. One. Yes, go ahead, Aleli.
We'll just add po si Dr. Alip and Dr. Yedra. Okay, so ready na po. Okay, smile po tayo. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much po.
Thank you. So our first reactor needs no lengthy introduction as he is well known in our development and microfinance and microinsurance community. Dr. Jaime Aristotle Alip is the founder of Card MRI, the 2008 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee for Public Service, and he continues to chair the major institutions of Card MRI, including Card Bank, SME Bank, and CMDI. And he sits in all of the Card MRI board, either as a member or as an advisor. He has also been given the title of Chairman Emeritus of Card NGO. So started in 1986, Card MRI is now composed of 23 MRIs, serving 7 million poor families, and its microinsurance arm, Card MBA, insures more than 26 million individuals, representing 26% of the country's entire population. Dr. Alip has also received numerous awards for his work in rural development and poverty eradication, the most recent of which was the prestigious Ramon V. Del Rosario Leadership Award for Nation Building, conferred to him in July 2019. So alam natin na si Dr. Alip is an alumnus of Harvard Business School, having completed its program in 2007, and he obtained his doctorate degree in organizational development from Southeast Asia Interdisciplinary Development Institute, or SAIDI, in 2002. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jaime Aristotle Alip.
Thank you very much, Allan, for that very generous introduction. First of all, I'd like to congratulate PA Joey. He has really been very, very supportive to the microfinance industry, the MSME. Hindi natin matatawadan yung kanyang mga ginagawa. At ako ay isang buhay na saksi sa kanyang pagpapakahirap sa sektor natin. At ang napakaganda kay PA Joey, Concepcion, hindi niya laging o hindi niya kinakalimutan ang ating sector. Every time na meron silang meeting with the cabinet members, he will always ensure na represented tayo lagi. Either si Allan, si Ed, or ako mismo, o si Father Chopik, talagang iniimbitahan niya at sinisiguradong laging represented. So yung boses natin ng mga kaliliitan ay talagang laging naririnig ng ating mga cabinet members, even our president. Three things, just a quick reaction. I support wholeheartedly yung framework ni Joey sa Negosyo, yung 3 M's, especially yung mentorship program. Marami sa atin ang participant doon sa mentorship program, either as a mentor or kaya as a client. So napakalaki ng naging impact nito sa ating microfinance industry at ito ay napakaganda. Yung nabanggit niya na talagang ito ang drive natin, yung ating maging mga micro-entrepreneurs ay makinabang na mabuti dun sa mentorship program because we are aligned with his vision with Negosyo kay PA Joey na ito ay talagang ang nais niya ay mas lumaki yung mga maliliit na entrepreneur to become bigger. Pagka nga naman mas malaki, hindi lamang consumer ang makikinabang kasi mas mababa at mas maanong presyo, kundi yung employment generation. So, ang laki ng impact nito sa ating economy. Kanya kahit may pandemic, ang microfinance, microinsurance institution for this matter ay laging kabahagi at laging sumusuporta sa programang ito. Yung money, yan ang kagandahan, and this is really the strength which was pointed out by Joey. Yung microfinance institution has that fundamental strength. Sa ngayon, the whole industry is about 60 microfinance institution covering around 9 to siguro mga more than 9 or 10 million microfinance clients. At ito ngayon ay talagang tumutulong. Ito yung mga kaliliitan, sari-sari store, magsasaka, vendors, at mga small traders. So ito yung mga hard to reach area clients na talagang bumubuo ng ating backyard economy. At yung pondo ay napakalaking bahagi niya kasi nais ko rin magpasalamat kay Joey kasi he also helped us in lobbying banks to give loans, wholesale loan doon sa mga microfinance institution. And because of that, tuloy-tuloy yung ating pagpapoto, especially during this time of pandemic. At nais ko rin bigyan diin na hindi lamang yung microfinance, yung kanilang mga loans, napakahalaga ding ginagampanan ng microinsurance MBA dito. Kasi yung microfinance MBA, in total, ay ini-insure din yung ating mga kliyente. Not only sa life, but also their businesses. So yung mga meron tayong ginagamit na o tinatawag na business interruption insurance, non-life insurance, disaster insurance, at napakalaking bahagi nito. So I'd like to also reinforce na hindi lamang microfinance institution, pati itong microinsurance MBA na ngayon ay nagdidiwang ng Microinsurance Week na dineclare yan ni President Arroyo nung panahon niya. At ito ay ating sineselebrate ngayon. Today, the whole MBA industry ay nag-i-insure ng around 33 million lives. This is the biggest insurance in terms of the poverty sector dito sa buong Pilipinas. And not only in the Philippines, but in the entire world. Kaya tayo ang kinikilala pagdating sa microinsurance. So itong Remancy, napakahalaga nitong ginagawa. The other thing na gusto ko rin bigyan ng diin ay yung nabanggit niya, yung market. At dito sa market na ito, to the mentorship program, talaga na ikakabit yung mga supplier, na ikakabit yung ating mga micro-entrepreneurs at may tawid doon sa mga palengke. At yan ay napakaganda. At dito palagay ko maganda ang magiging input dito ni Director Yedra, ni Dr. Yedra, kasi sa DA meron sila mga programang ito. So napakaganda nitong 3M mentorship program kasi lahat ay pumapasok dito. Yung din gusto kong bigyan din yung digitalization na nabanggit ni Joey. Ito ay napakahalaga. At siguro nais ko ring ipaalam kay PA Joey na yung microfinance industry, nagtayo na rin ang sarili nilang application. Ang card ay merong connect to card at ngayon ay nasa 2 million na yung users. Kaya nung panahong itong pandemic na ito, hindi na sila pumupunta sa bangko o sa mga microfinance premises at yung mga staff ay hindi na pumupunta, kundi merong mga agents at doon na lang nagbabayad, doon na lang din nagre-release. So there is this connect to card. Meron din tayong tinatawag na append pay. Ito isang malaking na mga application. So ito ay nakakonect din dun sa Paymaya, nakakonect din ito doon sa iba't ibang sa GCash. So napakalaking bagay nito. So this is now the movement of our digitalization program. Sa larangan ng vaccination, nais ko rin i-emphasize na alam niyo, nagpapasalamat din tayo kay Joey dahil nung una, akala ko para sa malalaki lang yung nung sinimulan niya yung kausapin yung AstraZeneca. Pero hindi niya kinalimutan ang microfinance sector. Kinumbida niya ako at sinabing, tumaya ka dyan, maglagay ka ng at you take the risk. And we did. At nakinabang tayo. Isa tayo sa institution nakauna-una nakakuha ng AstraZeneca through the help of the program of Negosyo at saka si PA Joey. So maraming salamat PA Joey at patuloy kaming susuporta sa Negosyo, patuloy kaming susuporta sa inyong mga adhikain because I think your mission and your vision is very noble. At talagang we are one with you because we want to totally eradicate poverty in our country and push our economy forward. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Dr. Alip, at nagbigay ka ng reaksyon tungkol sa mga efforts ng ating PA Joey at ng Go Negosyo. No? Isa rin ako sa magpapatotoo na malaki ang naidulot ng Go Negosyo at ni PA Joey. Hindi lamang sa vaccination per se ng ating sambayanan, kundi pati ang awareness ng ating vaccination sa ating mga microfinance institutions. So ngayon, malaki ang coverage ng vaccination sa ating mga microfinance institutions dahil inumpisahan ito ni PA Joey nung nagsisimula pa lang ang pandemic. Ngayon pumunta tayo sa ating second reactor. No? Ang ating second reactor ay isang Career Executive Service Officer, currently the OIC Executive Director of Department of Agriculture, Agribusiness, and Marketing Assistance Service. He started his government career service in 1989 at the DA Agricultural Credit Policy or ACPC, where he initiated a number of innovative financing schemes which have grown wide adoption by mainstream financial institutions. And since the early 90s, he managed ACPC's credit, agricultural loan guarantee, and institutional capacity building programs. He has worked for short-term consultancies on microfinance and microenterprise development with international agencies and has presented and written a number of internationally published papers on rural finance for the Asia-Pacific Rural and Agricultural Credit Association, or APRACA. He has been actively involved in the cooperative movement, particularly among cooperative banks and financial cooperatives, providing coaching and advice in the areas of governance and strategic management. He helped establish CARE MBA in 2009, which is now providing microinsurance to 120,000 individuals from 68 partner cooperatives from Quezon and nearby provinces. So in February 2020, he was called by Secretary William Dar to be detailed at the DA AMAS to direct DA's agribusiness programs. So he also obtained his BS degree, Master of Management, and PhD from the University of Philippines, Los Baños. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ramon Yedra.
Thank you, Allan. Good morning, Aris. And good morning po, PA Joey. Kaunting reaction lang po, susundan sa sinabi ni Dr. Alip. Talaga pong ako rin ay isa sa sumasaludo kay PA Joey. Isa ako sa taga-gobyerno na ang idol namin ay si Joey in terms pagdating sa entrepreneurship. So pag sinabi niya dun sa 3M na ang first ay mentorship, siya po yung kinikilala naming mentor. So he only, sa pakikipag-ugnayan niya sa mga government agencies, nakaka-influence siya ng pag-build ng entrepreneurship culture, mindset, maging sa mga taga-gobyerno. At isa pong malaking karangalan na makasama ko dito. Tama po ang sinabi ni PA Joey at napakaganda ng kanyang framework, yung 3M framework. What we need in the Philippines is really a supportive entrepreneurship ecosystem. And one of which, sabi nga niya, nakapaloob doon kung ano kinakailangan nating supportive ecosystem. And the first is really mentorship, education, building entrepreneurship culture among our populace. Maganda yung ginagawa niya sa mentorship kasi hindi lang bridging social divide, kundi bridging business. Dati-rati, ang mga business sector ay yung malalaki, ayaw makipag-ugnayan doon sa maliliit. But with this mentorship, we're bringing in face-to-face yung mga malalaki, successful businessmen with those na maliliit. Nakita po namin yan. Naggawa kami sa DA ng isang competition among the youth, Young Farmers Challenge. No? Tapos nagkaroon kami ng munting mentorship. Inimbitahan namin yung mga successful agribusiness entrepreneurs and then we link them with the youth yung mga young agripreneurs. At maganda yung kinalabasan among the youth, and they're very excited na sana masundan pa yung ganong klase ng mga mentorship. Kasi marami silang natututunan na practical tips. No? Ang maganda po ngayon dito sa larangan ng ating MSME sector is lumalabas na dumadami ang mas bata na founders. And that's a good sign. No? Nung nag-launch kami ng Young Farmers Challenge promoting agripreneurship, we were really impressed by yung pagsali ng napakaraming kabataan. At nung nag-pitch sila sa mga judges, magaganda yung kanilang mga interesent na small agribusiness ventures. So, kailangan ituloy natin talaga yung building of supportive social networks to build up entrepreneurship. No? So pag sinabi natin social network, hindi lang it starts from the family, so education campaign, hindi lang sa family, kasama dapat lahat ng social institutions like cooperatives. So maganda i-promote sa mga cooperative, magkaroon din sila ng entrepreneurial mindset para yun ang maitulong nila at maipalaganap sa kanilang miyembro. Very powerful sector din ang cooperative. So pag yan ay sila nagkaroon ng entrepreneurial mindset, malaking magiging contribution nila sa pagpapalago pa ng mas maraming entrepreneurs. Yung isa pong M ay yung market. Tama po siya. Kasi ayon do sa survey na ginawa, isa ang barrier at nagiging isang dahilan ng pagbagsak ng mga negosyo, no, ay market. No? Ang isang datos na ayon sa survey, no, 2019 survey ng MSMEs, ang taas ng ating business discontinuance, about 12.5% compared to 5% lang sa ASEAN. So mataas yung atin. And ang sinasabi, isang cost niyan ay market. They go into saturated markets, they don't know much about market information. So isang bagay yun na talagang kailangan pagtulungan ng pansin ng gobyerno at ng private sector, ng NGOs, na magkaroon sila ng information on markets. No? Yung pangatlo rin ay siyempre yung capital. Yan ay doon sa series of FGDs that we conducted with agripreneurs doon nasa industry, isang cited difficulty. And in particular, hindi lang na micro-entrepreneurs. Doon sa nag-grow into borderline ng medium. So yung medyo malaki ng small enterprise, gusto nilang makakuha ng additional capital for upscaling. Doon sila nakakakita ng difficulty. Sa ngayon, advantage yung mga entrepreneurs who have social networks who can support them, no? Yung magbibigay ng capital. Ang sabi nila ay the Philippines still lack a good venture capital fund or natutulong sa kanila kasi most of their capital comes from their relatives and then social network nila, no? So yun ang isang sinabi nila. So talagang mahalaga yung 3Ms. So dapat lang i-continue natin yung pagtutulungan ng government, private sector, NGO at lahat na ng social institutions. At yung panghuli, talagang tama po yung sinasabi ni P.A. Joey na kailangan natin, we should bring hope to our populace, no? Kasi talagang dariyan yung COVID and we must accept it. Kami po sabi ni Dr. Alip, graduates na ng Omicron. Nag-Omicron kami, so graduate kami. So we can attest na okay lang. And we must convince the others that okay lang, no? Na that's part of our new normal life. So let's go on with our lives, no? Let's open the economy at magsimula ulit tayo ng go. Go, 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 Negosyo. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Yedra. So, message is, economy should remain open, no, para continuous ang businesses, flow of money, and tuloy ang activities sa ating economy. So, kasi PA Joey allocated only 1 hour of his time kasi he has another engagement. So, final question kay PA Joey before we let him go. What role can financial service providers such as MFIs and microinsurance MBAs play in the whole of government and society approach to pandemic and climate resilience? And in addition to that, siguro mas magandang question to, in what areas can government and private sectors collaborate more to support protection and resilience of micro entrepreneurs? Ano pa yung pwedeng gawin na mas upper level PA Joey para maging resilient pa ang ating mga micro entrepreneurs?
Well, actually, at this point in time, we are confronted with different schools of thoughts. No, one is the very conservative approach, no, whereby minimize infection at all costs. No, and one is what we're trying to push. No, we need to take a risk. We need to take a risk by opening up, and you have in IETF a group that shared that different beliefs, no? And of course the economic team are more for opening the economy. Of course our doctors are more conservative, and each one has their own role, no? And so it's being able to achieve that meeting of the minds, no, whereby we open up and we try to do it safely. But it is not easy, no? There is a lot of discussion that happens, no, in trying to reach that point, no? And all I'm saying is that if we don't open up the economy, then our MSMEs will continue to struggle. And what's worse is that the lenders, creditors here are microfinance institutions and the other thrift rural banks, etc., will also be challenged, no, with how will they collect payments from people who borrowed to grow their business. So it's a whole, we're all connected, and this health situation will be there for some time. You will have a surge, then it will taper off. So we saw that with Delta, and it tapered off. We saw it with Omicron, and it's tapering off. I believe that in the year 2022, we could see this pandemic moving to an endemic state. No? I share that view together with Father Nick Austriaco and other doctors out there. But that will only happen if we are able to successfully convince the remaining unvaccinated to take the vaccine. Of course, you have natural immunity as they get infected. Katulad dito sa Delta, marami na infect. Dito sa Omicron, marami na infect. So they have natural immunity. But there are still a lot of those who have not gotten infected and have not taken the vaccine. And these are in the provinces, especially in Visayas and Mindanao and certain parts of Luzon. So we really have to work hard in convincing them. No? In the latest survey that was done by Octa Research, a question was asked, and we posted that question. How many of the Filipino people believe that vaccines should be mandated? No? And surprisingly, it's close to 70% believe that vaccines should be mandated. So I'm glad that after my repeated calls of really protecting the unvaccinated and restricting movement, the government has come up with a lot of programs on no vax, no ride, on-site workers who are not vaccinated will have to take an RT-PCR test, all geared up to protecting the unvaccinated. But of course, this is also creating some noise in terms of discrimination, my rights, and all of that. But ultimately, let me share that if we are not able to save the economy by opening up, we will all get hit. We will all get hit because our country's fiscal problems will come back, and we will now see further problems economically. And as Carl Chua pointed out, trillions of pesos will be lost now because of our growth rates not hitting its target. And when you put money in and invest, and alam ni Doc Alip to, when you invest in, you look at your people, they invest money in a business, they have to get a return. We're putting money in vaccines and all these testing equipments. What is our return? There is no return in the trillion pesos that we put in to save our people's lives. No, there's none. So the return really here is that we are able to at least keep everybody healthy, save lives, no, and hopefully move on. And that is the challenge now that we are facing. How do we move on? We can't get stuck. We're stuck. How do we have to move with baby steps. There is fear that, okay, if we move on, baka tumaas yung kaso, which happened with Delta. Tumaas yung kaso. And then bumagsak kasi nag-lockdown tayo voluntarily. Ngayon, umakyat dahil sa Omicron. But this is part of nature. We will just have to ride it through and continue to protect our people using these vaccines. And this is the only way that I can think that we will be able to bring back our MSMEs, no, our micro entrepreneurs to growth. They have to grow it. Yung malaking corporation, kaya namin yan. We get affected, mahabang PC kasi yung mga bangko namin, they can give more loans. We have track record. Pero micro at small entrepreneurs, yun mahirapan kasi the microfinance institutions are also not huge. They can go bust if the loans are not paid by the micro entrepreneurs. So this is our biggest challenge right now. It's not large corporations are not doing also great. But what is worse if our micro and small entrepreneurs don't survive? That's the entire Philippine economy at stake, to my mind. The entire Philippine economy is our micro and small. This is millions of people who are going to be affected. And that is my concern. And this is why we are going to do our very best together with the private sector, our business organizations. And I hope, Doc Alip, your the microfinance group can join us in really supporting that it is time now to move on. And I think we have the tools, we have the vaccines. We have 100 million vaccines at this point in time in our storage. If we do not take that on time, they will expire. So we have to put that in with those who have not been vaccinated. So these are the headwinds that we face. No? And but I'm confident that we have good people in government. Secretary Galvez and his team are working extremely hard. And I'd like to dispel the talks that the Philippines did not buy the vaccines on time. I was part of that. We had a hard time. Remember, powerful countries have greater access than countries like us. We had to contend with Sinovac, which if not for Sinovac, more Filipinos would have died. But because of Sinovac, it protected people from getting severe infection. But it did not protect them from getting infected, but from getting severe infection and dying. Yes, it did. And look at our vaccines that we bought. It arrived in July and August, AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Pfizer. Without Sinovac, we would have been wide open from the months of February in the year 2021 and up to July. So it only arrived in July and onward. So all of these vaccines now have arrived in, and we have a lot and we have enough, and we have to get that demand up, or else we will waste a lot of money. So I am confident that we will be able to do it. I'm confident that the year 2022 will be a much better year than the year 2021. And we have to tell our micro entrepreneurs, we have to give them hope. And once you lose hope, everything is gone. No? So let's continue to give them hope. And I'm not saying this just to please everybody. This is based on Okta numbers. And these are people that are data analysts, and they're very bright. The newspaper people will not be covering them more than DOH if these people don't know their numbers. No? So they see a better picture in February, and hopefully onwards, this becomes endemic. If this becomes endemic, we have to learn how to turn this, because we are part of that. If we don't want, we play a big role in turning this endemic by accepting that COVID is here to stay, and eventually it will just be like a flu, maybe a stronger flu, but we will be able to survive it.
Sige, maraming salamat, PA Joey.
Thank you.
Let's give PA Joey a warm round of applause before we let him go. Thank you very much, PA Joey. We look forward to hearing from you again and involving us in the future activities of Go Negosyo.
Salamat, Dr. Yedra. Si Aris, thank you. Thank you also, Allan. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We're always with you.
Salamat. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So we move, we continue the session. No? So there is an outstanding question from Ms. Jessie Ledesma sa ating chat box. And this question can also be answered by Dr. Ali, but directly, yung question is for Director Yedra. What concrete responses has your office taken, ibig sabihin ng DA, to help address business discontinuance among micro entrepreneurs, especially during the pandemic? So how does the DA help in increasing resilience, which is the very subject of our session today? Sige, Director Yedra, go ahead.
The first thing that we did is to unlock the bottlenecks in the supply chain. Kasi sa dami ng checkpoint, hindi makapagdala ng products. No? So, merong magbebenta pero walang dumadating. So that's the first thing we did. So meron kami, hindi lang alam ng mga tao, meron kaming 27 na open for any calls, no, from the provinces. Tapos may ugnayan kami with the ILG and PNP para makaka-unclog. That was difficult kasi Luzon wide, no. So with that, yun ang ginawa namin nationwide. The second one is pinalakas namin yung kadiwa. Kadiwa is nothing but linking producers with consumers, no? So yung pagpapadala ng produkto ng producer, FCAs, cooperatives, padala mo ang produkto mismo sa palengke. Yung mga saradong palengke, yung ginawa namin, nagkaroon kami ng mobile stores, kadiwa mobile stores, no? So bago pa nauso yung community pantry, marami na kami ginawa na pantries. So available yun. That's how to make food available kahit sarado yung mga palengke, kasi nagsara ang mga palengke noon eh, no? So that was a good intervention because we were able to help out close to 1 million consumers na nag-access ng kadiwa retail stores. So those are the two major things that we did during the pandemic. And we still continue, no? Kasi ang maganda nangyari, nag-open up yung kadiwa, parang magandang opportunity for our producers, small producers, at saka micro-entrepreneurs na into agri-food. No? Naging magandang opportunity kasi naging open yung naging open yung direct linkage eh. So yung mga nagtanong, yung mga even institutional buyers nagtanong, tapos yung private sector, even the malls, nag-open ng space for yung direct producers, yung producers directly they can sell. So that was a good opportunity. So ang gagawin na lang namin yan is to continue that initiative, no? Palakasin yung initiative na yon kasi nakaganda. Then the second point that I wish to raise is, ito ang nakita sa pandemic, yung ating food systems, no? So nakita noon, vulnerable ang ating food system kung yung produkto mo galing sa malalayo. Yung islands tayo o yung vegetables galing sa Benguet, no? So now, ang iniisip ngayon namin ng DA is to promote local food systems. Ibig sabihin ng local food system, ginagawa na rin to sa US. Local food system is yung urban center mo, yung community mo, source the food nearby. The nearest community is possible. Kung maalala nyo, at yun din ang gusto namin i-promote so not only in Metro Manila, but in other provinces. Gusto mga kaedad namin, ni Dr. Alip, no? Noong araw, may mga talimpapa, di ba? So yung mga small, alam mo, yung mga barangay, meron yan talimpapa, and then they source the food from nearby community. So yun, isang revelation yun, na dapat siguro bumalik ulit tayo sa local food system. Yung immediate community supplying the food in the populated areas. No?
Thank you, Director Yedra. Same question po kay Dr. Alip, but to add to that question, can you also share Card MRI's efforts naman in addressing business closure of clients? Kasi di ba maraming mga negosyo na mga microfinance clients ang nagsara during the pandemic. Ano po yung ginawa ng Card MRI regarding that? Sige po. Go ahead, Dr. Alip.
Thank you. Let me answer as one of the industry leaders, no? Not only Card MRI. Unang-una, yung microfinance industry, which is being represented here also by Allan, yung MCPI, together about 60 members of microfinance industry, hindi tumigil sa pagtulong doon sa mga client. We have around 9 or siguro mga 10 million. In fact, sa card, nag-increase pa nga yung membership. So itong mga 10 million clients, I would estimate now, dun sa microfinance outreach ng industry, napakalaking tulong ang tuloy-tuloy na ibinibigay because we continue to provide loans, we continue to provide all the necessary financial products, savings, remittance. And this is around 60 to 70 billion pesos. And kahit na nahirapan na humiram sa mga bangko, we still push for that kasi marami namang tumutulong. So in terms of ito pa rin yung tuloy-tuloy na ginagawa. And hindi tumigil ang microfinance industry kasi alam namin na dito kailangan ang mga suporta para doon sa ating mga kaliliitang mga negosyante, micro-entrepreneurs, because we are the last mile conduit between the big banks and the funders to our microfinance clients, especially mga hard to reach poor, no? So that's as far as the microfinance industry is concerned. Along with that, nung nagka-problema rin, we also had loan moratorium. Yan pinagkaisahan ng MCPI members. Talagang wala muna tayong maglo-loan moratorium muna tayo. So wala munang mga paniningil, no? Except yung mga gusto mag-volunteer. And we were able to help our 9 million or so clients, no? Let's talk about yung microinsurance because I also want to make sure that yung microinsurance MBA also should be recognized. Now I'd like also to speak as an industry, as one of the forerunners of this microinsurance industry. At ito ay pinamumunayan ng Emmy ngayon at saka ni Junjay. The microinsurance industry is composed of 19 or so MBAs. Ito yung mga Mutual Benefit Association na marami ngayon ang uma-attend dito. At ipinakita rin ang suporta dito sa times of pandemic. Ano yung mga malalaking suporta na binigay ng microinsurance industry? Unang-una, dahil nga medyo nagkameron ng moratorium sa ating mga activities, walang business. So yung mga MBAs, nagkameron din ng moratorium, collection, walang collection sa premium, at yung mga, pero tuloy-tuloy ang pagbabayad pagka may mga claims. Sa katunayan, if I may cite some figures, napakalaki ng contribution ng MBA, no? Itong 18 MBAs na ito, 19 MBAs, no? Itong panahon ng COVID, in 2020 alone, more than 50 million pesos ang binayaran ng claims ng MBAs, no? The whole force, no? Sa 2020. Ito yung suspected COVID at saka yung COVID related. So ang laki na naging response. Napakalaking response yan. At yan ay true to its word, 135. Within the day, mapapayaran. In 3 days, 5 days with finality, bayad ng bayad yan. In 2021, yung pandemic, magkano ang ibinigay na ulit ng ng MBA? So it's more than about 250 million. Yan yung claims na binayaran ng MBA, no? So napakalaking bigay. So in total, you're talking for the past 2 years na nasa 300 million plus, 320 million plus ang kinontribute ng MBA, yung industry. So ito, nagpapakita talaga na yung microinsurance, microfinance continues to support itong ating mga micro-entrepreneurs o yung tinatawag nating MSME. So napakalaking bagay dyan. At ito nga, dito sa mga innovation, kagaya ng natanong nga ni isa nating si Ms. Ledesma, Jesly, itong innovation sa microinsurance. Anong ginawang innovation? So meron na ngayon na ginagawa together with CPMI, RMSI, this is the industry of microinsurance also, and of course the card group, yung CPMI with the Pioneer. Meron na ngayong tinatawag na mga disaster insurance, pag nasira ang bahay, pagka binaha, so binabayaran din yan. Meron tayo yung calamity insurance. Ngayon, meron na rin ginawa ang CPMI ng tinatawag nating business interruption insurance. Ano ibig sabihin ito? Pag nasira yung negosyo, meron kang business interruption insurance. Hindi lamang yung buhay, yung nakasiguro, pati yung negosyo. At ngayon, pinapaputok natin ang pag-iisip ng ating mga partner, ang Pioneer Group, ang mga MBA, nagsasama-sama niyan, RMSI, magkameron din ng unemployment insurance. So, kung nasira ang negosyo, business interruption insurance. Nawalan ka ng trabaho kasi most of our clients also are dependent on employment. Tinutuklas din ng MBA at ng Pioneer Group kung paano maisasagawa yung unemployment insurance. At ito ay nangyayari na at pwede natin, kung hindi man, these are part of the innovation. The other thing is yung tinatawag nating agricultural insurance. So nag-pioneer dyan ng card. So meron na ring agricultural insurance. It is the law of number. And I'd like to inform you na kahit pilot pa lang, hindi nalulugi ang card group. Kasi it's a law of numbers, kasi well calculated siya. Hindi nga kumikita ng malaki, pero this is what we are. We want to really serve our communities. We want to eradicate poverty. So other innovation na ginawa ng card, nabanggit ko na rin ito kanina, we innovated yung mga application, yung connect to card using the cell phone. We have connect to card agent. Hindi na kailangan pumunta yung mga kliyente sa bangko o sa microfinance premises at doon na mismo sa village. So meron na mga accredited stores, accredited agent, doon na nagbabayad, doon na rin nagre-release ng loans, ng savings, remittance, even bills payment. Kung gusto mong magbayad ng iyong mga ilaw, tubig, o mag-load, we're just using the application. And these are all connected. Itong application, it's a very super application. Nakakonect din yan sa GCash, nakakonect din sa iba't ibang mga application. So these are the things that are part of the innovation that we're doing. The other thing is yung use of the channel. Nabanggit din niya ni Director Yedra at saka ni PA Joey. Gumagawa rin kami ng platform, market platform, yung mga likha ni Inay. We're now working with the pilot and this will be scale up with 7-Eleven. So ang inuna namin yung mga clients ng Baguio na nagtitinda ng vegetable. Yan mon, natutunan ko yung concept sa'yo, pero in-institutionalize ko together with 7-Eleven because 7-Eleven has the logistic. And this is what I want to do with the MSME. Yung mga logistic company, Shopee, kung ano-ano yan, Grab, we will be connecting with them. So ngayon nagsimula na kami sa 7-Eleven and we have a very, very successful pilot and we will expand this kasi nakukuha namin ng mura at mataas ang presyo doon sa mga right there at the farmers. May consolidator ang card doon. Ang consolidator ay farmer din. Parang sinasabi ni Director mo na medyo co-op ang style niya. Sila rin namimili. Tapos dadalhin ng 7-Eleven yung backload nila. So, tapos ibinababa naman doon sa card members, sa mga vendors, sa consumer at a price na medyo mababa. So, naaalis yung mga middlemen, although they're very important, pero yung mga hindi naman kailangan, talagang nababawasan ng gastos. And this is a very happy, happy project, and we hope to expand this under the Likhani and that program ng Card MRI. At hindi ko rin kakalimutan, I know time is very limited, we are also doing our own share in vaccination. We have the e-doctor. We have a regular program. So doon sa e-doctor, it's a platform. Yung aming mga doktor, mga nurses, pharmacists, ay meron laging airtime twice a week at nagbibigay ng mga messages. It's a 1-hour program at nagdi-discuss ng mga kung anong dapat gawin sa mga sakit at dapat i-push yung vaccination. We are supportive with the government. We are supportive with the idea of PA Joey na kung maaari, alisin na yung quarantine. Kasi nga sa US, I've been there 2 months ago, talagang wala na quarantine. Basta kung ikay may sakit, ay doon ka na lang sa bahay. No? So basta magpabakuna ka, okay na yan. Maraming salamat, Allan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alip. So, yung response ni Dr. Alip at ni Director Yedra, all also related to dun sa basic framework na present ni PA Joey kanina. No? It's innovations in financial services, which is money, yung isang M, and yung markets, yung importance ng access to markets even with the pandemic, so that that will increase the resiliency of MSMEs. No? So, at this time, we would like to provide the opportunity to 2 of our audience na magbigay ng response, no, sa ating session. I would like to call on si Miss Salve Antiquera, KMBA General Manager, to provide a quick reaction, and then after si Miss Salve, si Miss Fe Mendones, Care MBA General Manager, to provide naman her quick reaction to the session. Unahin po natin si Ate Salve. Go ahead, Ate Salve.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Sa atin pong mga resource persons, good morning. Sa mga nanay members, alam ko maraming nandirito ngayon. Kayo ang aming inspirasyon para maipagpapatuloy namin talaga yung aming serbisyo sa komunidad. Alam ho ninyo, nakakalungkot talagang isipin na mula sa isang flu-like symptoms na nagsimula ay lumala, umalat, at saka lumawak ang disruptions. So marami ho ang apektado, actually, pangkabuhayan, kalusugan, negosyo. So hindi ho talaga namin inaasahan na aabot tayo sa ganito katagal. Actually, almost 2 years na sa ngayon at hanggang ngayon uncertain pa kung kailan matatapos yung pandemic. Tama po, malaki ang epekto sa pandemic, ng pandemic sa amin, lalong-lalo na sa mga MSMEs sa aspeto ng aming operations at lalo na sa aming mga members. Gusto kong kunin ang pagkakataon na ito na ibahagi sa inyo. A few highlights lang naman ito sa paano hinarap ng kasagana ka, paano namin hinarap ang crisis, particularly ditong sa pandemic natin. Pangunahin sa amin yung safety and welfare ng aming mga empleyado. Ang vaccination rate po namin sa aming more than 300 employees ay 98.5 ang fully vaccinated sa ngayon. At marami na rin silang nakakuha ng booster shots. At saka as much as possible po, kahit po nagkakaproblema po ang aming samahan, alam naman natin na marami po ang nawawalan talaga ng hanap buhay, madami pong membro na naapektuhan. As much as possible, we want to keep our employees. Yun po yung isa sa aming concern. Gumagawa po talaga kami ng mga pamamaraan na sila ay maprotektahan po namin sa kanilang job tenure. So, yun po yung para doon sa mga empleyado. Ano po yung aming mga ginagawa naman patungkol naman sa mga miyembro? Okay, mahalaga po yung constant communication to members. So, kaya po nabuo yung iba't ibang chat group, nabubuo yung mga iba't ibang layers ng ng mga messenger. Kasi gusto natin patuloy sa panahon ng lockdowns, uncertainty, mental health, mahalaga yung komunikasyon palagi sa mga miyembro. Maliban pa diyan, tuloy ang pagkalinga po doon sa mga miyembro. Nais nating ipadama kasi sa kanila na we are one with them in this crisis. So importanteng mensahe sa ating mga miyembro. Maliban dito, parang naisip namin, ano bang pwedeng gagawin? Kasi nung unang salta ng quarantine, parang nagulo po lahat, no? Nagulo tayo lahat. So ang ginawa namin, alam namin may mga ayuda na ginagawa ang gobyerno. So sa maliit na pamamaraan, sa maliit na pondo, nag-pull in ang Kasagana-Ka dahil iba-ibang institusyon ito. So nag-pull in ng maliit na tulong. Binigay ito sa sentro. So during the height of the pandemic ito. So itong maliit na pondo na ito ay binigay namin sa mga sentro at sila yung namahala kung ano ang gusto nilang gawin. Yung iba nagpalugaw, yung iba nagbili ng bigas, pinamimigay sa mga miyembro. Pero ang nakakatuwa dito, yung pagtutulungan ng komunidad, hindi lang ng mga miyembro ng Kasagana-Ka, kundi pati mga kapitbahay nila ay nakinabang din dito sa maliit na proyekto na ito. And then may mga grupo, napansin namin na may mga grupo na importante ito sa mga maliliit na grupo na ito. Mahalaga na sumasali din kami. Yung networking mahalaga ito. May mga ilang grupo individual na meron silang resources, meron silang pera, pero hindi rin naman nila alam saan nila dadalhin, kaya nila ibigay. So ang sabi namin, okay, merong opportunity for collaboration. So we collaborated with the private sector, with the private individuals. Merong isang, ay kwento ko sa inyo, yung isang grupo na manggugulay o isang groups producing gulay from Benguet o Abra. Pwede silang magbigay ng gulay sa mga miyembro namin. Pero ang tanong, paano mo gagawin itong mga gulay na ito? No? Ang bilis masira ang mga gulay. Nagustuhan namin yung idea ng gulay because mas nutritious siya. Sa panahon kasi nung mga ayuda, puro noodles, puro canned goods na binibigay. So, naisip namin, ay tama yung gulay. So, ang ginawa lang namin, ang ginawa ng Kasagana-Ka, kino-conceptualize anong gagawin mo sa gulay. So, ito yung mga ilan at nakabuo ng iba't ibang mga proyekto. Like for example, Project Kariton. O, yung Project Kariton, babagsakan ng isang kariton ng halimbawa 100 kilos na gulay. Na itong gulay na ito worth 5,000 pesos. So, ilalako niya yon. So, imbis na bibigyan mo ng tao ng pera, pwede pa niyang masusustain yung ano na ito. Kasi kikita siya at pwede siyang kikita more than 5,000. Maliban pa niyan sa gulay, ano pang gagawin? So, nabuo din yung konsepto ng singkong sabaw. Okay. Ano tong singkong sabaw? Halimbawa, nag-identify ng mga tao na sinong interesado nito. So, actually, tulong-tulong kasi yung aming NGO, sila din yung tumulong para i-identify at saka iayos yung konsepto kung paano padadaluyin itong proyektong ito. Singkong sabaw, bibigyan halimbawa ng 20 kilos per week or 4 kilos a day, halimbawa na gulay, ang isang interesadong sumali, no? Iluluto niya to, ibibenta niya sa isang mababang halaga, 5 pesos. Pero kailangan makapag 100 to 200 katao siyang mabibigyan yun. Hindi lang ito pwede sa mga membro ng Kasagana-Ka, sa mga kapitbahay din nila. per family. Halimbawa, 5 piso, bibili ka ng sabaw. Pero, syempre, hindi lang naman yung sabaw, baka tubig at gulay na lang iyon. May mga inaayos na rin para magiging malaman naman yung sabaw na ginagawa. Pangatlong nagawa nila is that itong project karinderya, malaking bagay din ito dahil syempre marami nga gustong tumulong. So, paano ba to? Pupunduhan halimbawa, isang karinderya, marami kasi kaming mga members na may mga karinderya nagsara. So, kailangan namin itong buhayin muli. So, nag-identify sino-sino yung mga interesado dito, sino yung qualified, sino yung ganito. So, bibigyan siya ng pondo. Magpapakain siya ng a certain number of people at ang sobra ay pwede na niyang ibenta at kita na niya yon. So, unti-unti nakakabalik ang isang miyembro doon sa kanyang negosyo. At ito po, mayroon din kaming partnership with, I think, Jollibee Foundation. Tinuruan naman sila yung mga nanay sa tamang paraan sa paghahanda naman ng mga pagkain. Itong mga maliliit na proyekto na ito ay na-replicate na ang mga projects na ito sa iba pang mga communities. Ang puhunan mo lang sa ganitong proyekto ay ang pagiging malikhain mo sa pag-implement ng project. Mula sa gulay, nakapag-create ka ng maraming employment opportunities at kumikita na din yung mga miyembro. Maliban dito ay, so marami din kaming miyembro na nagtitinda sa yung mga buy and sell, yung mga taytay, yung mga sa fabric, yung mga gumagawa ng nagtatahi. So saan nila ibebenta ito? So gumawa naman tong aming kooperatiba ng isang online marketplace. So importante din kasi paano parang mawawala naman din sila sa negosyo nila. So sumali din lahat. Ito kasi Facebook na to. Sa pamamagitan ng Facebook, nag-create ng online marketplace. Kasi ito ay isang practice sa kanila para sa online. Alam nyo, hindi naman lahat talagang marunong gumamit. Pero tinuturuan sila kung paano i-market ang kanilang negosyo, ang kanilang mga produkto doon sa isang place na ito. Ngayon, yung mga kaya na, yung mga may kakayanan na sila na may malaki-laki na ang kanilang produkto, may mga supply na sila, pwede na silang sumali sa isang online platform. Ito yung online palengke, which is, ito yung iskaparati.com. Ang kasagana ka, nanguna ang mga nanay yan ang kasagana nanguna yan sa pagpasok doon sa online platform. Ito mas wider ang audience, hindi lang yung tulad ng FB na sila lang nagbibentahan. Ito ay online platform na mas wider yung kanilang audience at saka may mga mentorship, may mga mentoring na ginagawa ng mga professionals kung paano magbenta, paano ang packaging nila, etc. So, doon yung mga nanay na buhay uli. So, hindi lang kami nakatutok doon sa mga iilan, kundi iba-ibang grupo na pwedeng pasukan. Ang aming kooperatiba ay, syempre, katulad nung sinasabi na nga, na nahirapan din talaga ang mga miyembro. So, instead na mahirapan sila, ay nagbigay din sila ng loan restructuring. Nagbigay din ng moratorium. Yung amin namang NGO part ng Kasagana Ka, tuloy yung capacity building niya. Pero ang emphasis is more on the business development. Ano yung pangangailangan sa ngayon? Tapos yung value chain, online marketing, yung mga ilan sa mga mahahalaga na dapat matutunan ng mga nanay pag sila ay pumasok sa online platform. Sa MBA, ito medyo madami kaming binigay na in terms of grace period kasi madaming ang negosyong nawawala, so tahimik, medyo natamlay sila talaga. Pero binigyan namin a total of 109 days grace period ang naibigay ng KMBA sa mga miyembro namin para ma-settle lang nila yung kanilang mga premium, no? Tsaka alam mo ninyo, kahit wala masyadong pumapasok doon sa premium collection namin, kami ay patuloy na nagbibigay sa loob ng 135 days claim settlement. So tuloy ang aming pakikipag-ugnayan, tuloy ang aming proseso, validation, at claims releases namin. At sa panahon ng kalamidad, ang KMBA din ay laging nakaalalay at tumutulong para sa pagbibigay ng mga relief calamities. Dito sa gusto ko lang banggitin kasi ito isa sa mga, hindi naman to bago at lahat naman tayo, lahat kami ginagamit na rin namin para mapapabilis yung aming proseso dahil sa Messenger, yung mga social media na platform, yung mga dokumento namin, yung mga halimbawa sa claims validation, yung mga documentary requirements, ay madali na yung proseso sa pagpaparating sa amin. And then, yung aming mga claims releases namin, nakipag-ugnayan kami sa yung mga depository bank namin para sa mga online banking. At dahil malayo, hindi rin naman namin kasi syempre, hindi rin namin malaman kung paano yung mga miyembro, paano makarating kaagad sa kanila. So kami ay kumbaga tinulungan namin sila to get an e-wallet. So GCash, Paymaya, kung wala silang bank accounts. Pero ngayon ang aming kooperatiba, unti-unti na din sila na nag-open ng mga bank accounts para doon sa kanilang mga miyembro. Ngayon ang KMBA also nakita namin na kailangan natin mapapabilis yung ating proseso din. So, meron pong ongoing po yung development ng aming mobile application. Dati, lagi namin sinasabi na, manual lang tayo, nakakatakot pumasok sa digital, etc. Kasi mahal yan, etc. Pero dahil po sa crisis na ito, dahil po dito sa pandemic na ito, napupush kami at napapabilis yung aming proseso para copy namin yung value ng pagkakaroon ng mobile, ng digital. Ilan lamang po ito sa maraming initiatives na ginagawa po ng Kasagana Ka para maipagpatuloy po namin yung serbisyo po namin sa mga miyembro at lalo naming pagsisikapan na mabubuhayin natin yung ating ekonomiya mismo doon sa mga komunidad. Kahit ganito kadami yung aming mga iniisip.
Final message na po para
Yes, ma'am.
tayo.
Yes.
Sige
Yung
po,
challenge pa rin, yung challenge pa rin namin is the withdrawals ng mga miyembro. Paahon pa lang, kabuhayan, dumating naman si Bagyong Odette, kaya pinadapa na uli kami ng kabuhayan. Kaya maraming members namin sa Cebu ang naaapektuhan. Pero ito po, naniniwala kami na there will always be an opportunity in every crisis. At yan ang magpapatibay sa ating mga MSMEs. Hindi lamang siguro kakaharapin natin yung sarili or yung kasalukuyan po nating crisis ngayon, but we have to work harder even beyond the pandemic. Isang matibay pong aral na ito para sa ating lahat. So maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Ate Salve, for that detailed paliwanag sa mga initiatives ng Kasagana Ka at KMBA. I'm sure maraming natutunan. Marami pang tanong ating ibang participants dito at hopefully pwede nyo pong tanungin si Ate Salve personally dito sa messaging kung may mga tanong po tayo. Sige, punta po tayo kay Miss Fe Mendones. Go ahead, Miss Fe.
Yes, good morning everyone. Thank you Miss Salve sa iyong magandang sharing. Actually, ako gusto ko munang kunin yung opportunity to thank syempre si Sir Joey na wala na ngayon. Parang nasa US pala siya. Kay Dr. Alip, yan yung aking talagang laging tinatanong, lagi kong na-message. At syempre si Ramon, ito na yung Care MBA. Since na cooperative base or partner cooperative ang aming partner dito sa Care MBA, nakakatuwa yung sinabi ni Sir Joey. Sabi niya ay, kailangan pala nating bigyan ng hope. Parang doon sa ginagawa namin, parang hindi na kami makapagbigay ng hope sa aming mga cooperative because microinsurance, sabihin niya ay insurance kayo. Hindi nyo na feel ang pangangailangan namin as member. Ang gagawin nyo kukolekta. But for sure, ang laki ng tulong ng CARE, ang laki ng tulong ng MIMBA sa aming mga miyembro. At ito ay mapapatunayan ng aming mga partners cooperative. Even a small amount, ang ibinibigay namin sa aming partners cooperative, talagang ina-appreciate nila. Salamat din sa Insurance Commission sa pagbibigay sa atin ng moratorium. At ibinigay din namin yan sa aming mga kooperatiba. So ang sabi nga ay tuloy lang ang buhay. At yun yung laging pinapangatawanan. Meron kaming mga mentor, meron kaming ginagawa sa cooperative, at ang Care MDA ay laging kasali sa lahat ng council, provincial council, member din kami ng Quezon Federation in Union of Cooperatives, Lucena Council, Regional Council, lahat ng council para ma-reach out namin ang mga pangangailangan ng mga kooperatiba. Ano ba yung pwedeng itulong? At we have a separate budget for that. Hindi naman malaki pero nakakatuwa lang na meron kaming ang tawag dito, ugnayan ng aming mga kooperatiba. Ang sabi nga ay, we have to move on. Doc Alip, thank you sa iyong message. Ang sabi nga ay patuloy lang natin na gampanan ng ating sinasabi natin sa ating claim settlement 135. Pinangangatawa namin yan at ginagawa din namin ikong model dun sa 24 hours or 1 day or 8 hours na nakakapagbigay ang card ng claim. So ginagawa na din namin yan. So thank you, thank you. At syempre po sa grupo ng MBA sa buong Pilipinas, alam natin na itong lahat ng ito ay challenge para sa atin. At again, we would like to thank the opportunity na makita kami dito sa ating National Microinsurance Forum na napakagandang opportunity na ma-reach out naman natin ang ating mga miyembro, ang ating mga partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ve. So, unfortunately, wala na tayong oras para magsagot sa mga ibang katanungan sa chat message. No? So, bilang summary, no, sinimulan ni PA Joey ang isang magandang framework to address talaga yung resiliency of micro enterprises. So that includes mentorship, money, and market. So lahat ng ating mga strategies na pinrovide ni Dr. Alip, ni Director Yedra, at ni Ate Salve at ni Ms. Fe ay revolving around those three, no? So mahalaga talaga na ang 3Ms na yun ay ating mailahad or masuportahan na maayos ang ating mga micro enterprises with those 3Ms. At pangalawa ay vaccination ay importante. Napaka-importante ng vaccination para mapanatiling open ang ating ekonomiya at panatiling kumikita ang ating mga kliyente sa microfinance at mga ating micro enterprises. At panghuli ay ang pagbibigay ng hope sa ating mga kliyente. So mahalaga na patuloy ang komunikasyon sa ating mga kliyente through different means, text message, through Facebook groups at kung anong groups para mapakita na nandito ang ating mga micro MBAs at ang microfinance institutions na patuloy na sumusuporta sa ating mga micro enterprises sa gitna ng pandemya at kung anumang mga sakuna sa mga typhoon para sa kanilang greater resilience. So bigyan natin ulit ng warm round of virtual applause ang ating mga speakers at ang ating mga reactors. Maraming salamat, Dr. Alip, Director Yedra, at Ate Salve, at Ma'am Fe. Bigyan natin ng warm round of applause. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. Baka pwede din tayo mag-picture po sa inyo.
Mag-picture po tayo kasama ang ating mga reactors.
Pwede natin
smile.
Ready po tayo. Smile po. 1, 2, 3. And isa pa po. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Aleli.
Thank you very much, no, Allan, for very good moderation. No? Dr. Alip, Sir Mo,
thank you,
Allan.
Salamat.
Salamat.
Thank you.
Salamat sa inyong lahat.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was very informative, no, and practical na mga initiatives, no, na may potential for scaling up, no, and napaka-lively din and eye-opening ng ating mga discussions. Maraming salamat. Moving on to our first na feature presentation. Medyo apologies sa ating resource person. Medyo na late na tayo, no, but maganda yung yung discussion, no. Ang investment is a very key activity para sa mga insurance providers, lalo na sa mga MIMBAs, no, and ito yung binabantayan natin, no, and that's why we made this session regular na, no, every year, because yung tulong nito, no, yung earnings from our investments help us manage yung ating mga expenses, no, na lower yung cost ng insurance, no, in longer term, no, and ma-meet yung ating mga obligations sa ating mga member policy holders, no. So our resource person for the investment outlook is the Chief Investment Officer of BPI Asset Management and Trust Corporation. With over 20 years of experience, he oversees the management of 800 billion in assets, no, and investing in both Philippines and global assets. His previous work experience included ING Bank Manila Trust Department and Metrobank's Treasury Department. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Smith Chua.
Hello, good afternoon at maraming salamat Junji sa introduction. At I'd like to greet also Dr. Alip, as well as all the members and participants of this National Microinsurance Forum of 2022. And I've heard some of the conversations here, and it's been very interesting and good to know the microinsurance is healthy and well and really providing service to its members. No? So for us today, what we want to do is also to share with you how we see the economy is doing here in the Philippines, as well as to give you a view of how the markets are going to perform this year. No, so perhaps we can start with on our first slide, and this is already our 4th year of presenting to you, and a 2nd year of being in this pandemic. No, and if you can look at this chart, we're now on the 4th wave of this pandemic, and truly itong Omicron is very transmissible, although less severe siguro in consequence, but really transmissible, and we really have to be very, very careful. No? So something very interesting about this phenomena of this pandemic outside of what we've seen, especially where social distancing has concern, no? Because of contamination. I recently read this article that talk about the impact on families, and this is data that came from the Commission on Population and Development. No, they found out that the annual marriage statistics for the year 2020 dropped by 44% in 2020. No, and that instead of 431,000 marriages during the year of 2019, for 2020. It's about only about 290,000 marriages occurred during that time. No, but perhaps what is encouraging is that in 2021, so far in the 10 months period, it has already surpassed the full year of 2020. But it looks like hindi pa rin niya mababalik yung 400,000+ of marriages in 2019. No? So for these people who got married in 2021, congratulations to them. Despite the pandemic, against all odds, patuloy ang pag-ibig. No? So the second thing that I want to also raise is yung annual birth statistics. No? For the history of the Philippines, every year we are actually producing 1.6 million babies. No? But in 2020, only 1.5 million babies were produced. And this is the lowest number that was of babies that was given birth since 1986, when we only produce about 1.49 million babies. No, but more stunning is itong 10 months of 2021, because that's all the statistics they have there. The 10 months of 2021. Only it was actually lowered by 25% for that 10-month period versus that of 2020. Only 950,000 so far in the 10 months of 2020 were their babies given birth. Certainly, this is one of the concerns of parents and couples who are planning a family. Pupunta kayo sa hospital and there are COVID patients and difficult to really give birth at that time. No, so there seems to be a pattern of deferring that pregnancy or giving birth. Will there be a catch-up later? That's the big question. We'll find out. No, kasi this fourth quarter, naging very active yung socialization natin. Who knows, 9 months later, ano yung mangyayari, no? Or will there be a long-term impact on how couples will be planning their family in the future, no? So that's something of a small anecdote na the impact of pandemic on our family and family structure, no? Okay, so next slide. So one of the things that we've seen is, of course, the Philippine herd immunity is quickly approaching, no? So far, as of January 23, over 50 million people have already been fully vaccinated, and that's a very, very good news. And that's over about 50% in terms of that population who already got immunity. And to get that herd immunity, it has to be somewhere between 70% to 90% of the population. Of course, hoping that the minors, those that are younger kids, will also be eligible for that, no? Otherwise, the young kids below 17 years old, they comprise 1/3 of our population, no? So malaki pa rin yung population na hindi ma-vaccinate kung hindi sila ma-allow to be vaccinated, no? Now, of course, this vaccination that we're seeing today, mainly the mRNA technology, came about in less than 1 year. No, less than 1 year, a record time frame in terms of producing a vaccine. And thankfully for that, it avoided a lot of mortality or death as a consequence, no? So we've seen here on the chart on the right, it's a US data because mas makompleto yung kanilang data sa US. Those who died, karamihan unvaccinated, no? So you have a smaller chance of dying because you are fully vaccinated, and you have even better if you are already boosted, no? So I think that's something that we can appreciate. That technology has given us the ability to fight this pandemic, no? Unlike in 1918, nagkaroon ng Spanish flu, wala silang such a thing as a vaccine, no? So this is important because our economy, of course, to be able to continue its economic activity, we will need to have these defenses in place: immunity, good number of people who are immune, vaccinated, and to have the medicine available for that, and the healthcare and hospital. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. And basically here we look at inflation, no? That's a #1 problem last year for the Philippines, and it turns out it's the #1 problem around the world, for US, for Europe, in other parts of the world, no? And we can see here that in 2020, bumagsak yung price ng oil by 22%. Understandably, practically the whole world experienced a recession. People don't know how to move. There was no medicine yet. And so flights were canceled, car driving got reduced. So the use of oil was actually reduced also. So price went down by 22%. Last year, it went up by 50% as there was expectation that the economies will be reopened, no? As some of you have mentioned, those of you who have gone to the US recently, parang wala na, normal na sila doon, hindi na sila nagmamask, no? They're confident that they got vaccinated already, or they're going to get a natural immunity. And that basically increased the usage of oil, especially where US is concerned, no? But there are other factors that really brought about the price of oil higher. Titingnan nyo yung price ng oil back in 2018, 2019, it didn't go up this high, no? And we recently just really saw this spike. And what's the reason for that? Yung OPEC plus, no, the South Middle East as well as Russia, they control the supply of oil, no? They're not releasing 100% of what they're producing. They're only releasing maybe 90% so far of what they're producing. And inuunti nila yung release ng supply to the market to be able to get higher prices, no? Because understandably in 2020 they suffered losses, but now they're trying to make up for it by releasing the supply gradually. So perhaps by the middle of this year, they will have already released almost 100% of their supply out there in the market. And hopefully by that time, the prices will come down. Secondly, the more recent development is Ukraine, no? It became a battleground between Europe and Russia. Russia is threatening to invade Ukraine. And therefore, US and Europe came in and said that, we will wage war against you, Russia, if you invade or step into Ukraine. No? So this is very significant because, every time that there is talk of war, oil prices go up. No? And recently, there were also some bombings going on in the Middle East from different factions that has been warring for the past. No? And of course, the surge in demand is basically the reopening story. Some countries have already gotten back to their normal traffic or mobility and flight. No, but also last year, what we found out is the global warming. No, there were situations where really the ability to there were certain countries or states like California, they experienced record heat. No, and this is probably the uptin time that they have consecutive high temperature, and every time you have that, the consumption of oil becomes higher because people need cooling devices to keep them cooler. No, so all of these are conspiring now, whether it is the pandemic, the reopening, or the global warming, that is now conspiring to also create that demand for oil prices. And going forward, it's not yet resumed yung flight. No, if it's fully resumed, imagine where that oil price would be. No, so we are keeping watch on the oil price in terms of an inflation factor going forward. Second, next slide, please. Now, the other thing that we experienced locally was the African swine fever. As you know, as we came into the pandemic, it was already happening. No, and as many of our poultry got slaughtered as to be able to prevent that spread of the virus there, we have a scarcity of pork prices, no? Whether it's pork belly or pork ham, which is the blue and green line there, no? So suddenly, the end of 2020, by Christmas time, umakyat bigla yung mga presyo because suddenly nakulangan yung pork supply natin, no? It was middle of 2021 that the President, through Senate, also declared that we import more pork with reduced tariff, that we saw some decline in the prices of pork products as well as beef and chicken at the same time. Siyempre, yung beef and chicken, if there's less pork, people will get more beef and chicken, so the price will also go up. No? So now that we're able to import, the global supply disruption, on the other hand, as we've heard, yung China not being able to ship out goods, some of the other places don't have the ability to ship goods, and boats coming to the Philippines are getting less. No, some of that supply of pork probably got affected, and therefore, as we came towards the Christmas season last year, pork prices went up. No, so it's really a very tricky situation that shipments be able to be delivered on time. But what we're seeing is a lot of these boats are actually stuck somewhere and not able to come back to the Philippines. No? So here is another item that we have to watch out for: meat prices this year, as well as, of course, other items that we will be tackling here. Next slide, please. So last year, the big story is inflation really went up, no? Because of oil price, food price, meat prices. So we averaged 4.4% last year in terms of inflation. Mataas yan relative to history. No? And this year, we probably will be more moderate. It will be about 3% thereabout. But we are careful about how oil prices will affect the transport costs, no? The utility prices, because Meralco, some of the plants are run by oil and diesel, so that will eventually come into the Meralco prices or power prices natin. We will also anticipate a power shortage, especially here in Luzon, no? As a result of the increase in usage of power, but at the same time, the anticipated new power plants that are supposed to be built and completed last year and in 2020, nadidelay because yung mga planta, they are not able to construct them on time, and the machines that they're supposed to import were not able to also come in because of some of these boats not being able to make it and COVID situation in their own countries. No, so this may continue to be the case this summer. So handa lang tayo na parang magkaroon ng walang kuryente, no, during this period of time. And that coincides with the election period, by the way. No? Another item is, of course, food prices, and that's because La Nina. La Nina is declared late last year. So far, it's moderate. But if La Nina, which means more rain will be experienced by our country, becomes stronger, then that will also put a pressure on vegetable prices and food prices. No? So we mentioned about shipment delays, but we also look at imported materials coming from abroad. No? For example, construction materials are becoming more expensive because, for example, China produces a lot of aluminum, steel, and cement. Apparently, their cost of producing the power for these products have gone up. And that has been the experience that construction materials have gone up also locally. So these are things that, you know, as we go through this pandemic, we thought that infection is down, but, you know, China being a big producer of the goods, they're not yet able to control the COVID, and therefore the delays in the production and the shipment of these goods, no, affecting the whole world and to us. Next slide, please. So the good news, no, the fourth quarter of last year, November, December, we had a taste of what normal life looks like, no, when infection rate was below 1,000 a day nationally, no, that was something that we did not anticipate or expect. And we were quite unprepared, and people really took advantage of that, and they went out and socialized, went to the malls, no, eat outside. And this is a bit of that normal life that we were all craving for, no. So what this means are, there are three things that where they have really been pre-COVID ang kanilang activity, no. So this is called the mobility index from Google. And prior to the fourth quarter, you can see that karamihan nun, it was below the 0%. The 0% representing the pre-COVID level of activity, no. Above that is already, you know, going back to the pre-COVID. So far, the only one that has gone up has been grocery above pre-COVID, no, before the fourth quarter. But nung fourth quarter, talagang sumipa yung grocery and pharmacy store activities, no. Secondly, also is the park activity. And third, retail and recreation, which is going to the malls, watching movies, you know, buying stuff in the malls, and doing some of those recreation. No? So that's very, very important because they're very important components of our GDP growth. No, and you will see it later. No, but you can see that after the fourth quarter, itong January, biglang bagsak lahat ulit. No, yung parks, bumagsak na to close to zero again. And then yung retail and recreation, bagsak na naman siya below that zero line, no? Which is your pre-COVID line. No? So grocery and retail remains to be very essential. And that probably will stay above zero for the foreseeable future. That's the only thing that's essential that really people are willing to go out and really do. No? So this is something that perhaps down the line this year, if our infection is under control again, you know, there is that probably that surge of pent-up demand that we hope to see. No, we hope to see. Next slide, please. So here we talk about yung GDP. One of the biggest contributor of our growth here in the Philippines is household consumption, and this is 70% of your GDP. Kung malakas ito, malakas ang GDP number, 5 or 6% or 7%. No, but if mahina ito, mahina yung overall GDP natin. So here we just look at the different components here of the GDP. And many of them have already reached their pre-COVID levels in 2019. Tatlo na lang itong component na kulang pang activity to go back to the 2019 level. These are transport, no? Mga jeepneys not fully operational, bus not fully operational, and train, no? Restaurants and hotels, no? Kasi tourism is not yet here. People are not able to really go to hotels and go there except to quarantine, no? And recreation and culture, because of, you know, social distancing being the best measure to avoid COVID, no? So these three things, no, if we get to normalize later on, when they catch up, no, that will be a strong contributor to our growth, no? Now, one of the things we talk about also is, on that household consumption, kulang syempre dapat may income. Aside from income is also OFW remittance, no? Which normally is a very big amount, no? So far this year, in 2021, we saw that it grew by 5%. No, we're going to hit $30 billion of overseas remittance this year, which is terrific, no? Parang walang pandemic nga eh. Parang pareho pa rin yung amount of remittance. So that's good and beneficial for household, no? Secondly is back to office work, where people are going to office, and back to school also. It generates a lot of jobs, it generates a lot of activity, sales of food, and also tourism, no? We have not opened really fully for domestic tourism. We have not really fully opened to foreign tourism. And we hire millions of people directly, indirectly in this sector, no? So we're looking forward to the time that this kicks in, etong three components, so that we will really get that full impact of economy fully functional. Okay, next slide. Yeah, let's talk about business condition. Of course, there's the consumers, and then there's the businesses. No, you have your small and medium enterprises, which your microinsurance cater to. So this is one of the things that we can look at. No, in terms of business inventory, for the past one and a half years, in 2020, for example, businesses sold their inventory to the amount of 400 billion pesos. And then in the first half of 2021, it sold another 100 billion pesos of inventory. So a total of 500 billion pesos of inventory. And so far, hindi pa sila dinadagdag. No? It's really an indication of how the strategy of businesses are. Now, they want to just sell their inventory to get back their working capital and survive through this pandemic for as long as they could. And working capital is very precious. It's very, very valuable, as your small businesses are also concerned. So that's an indication that businesses are not yet that confident that the recovery is here, and they're not build up the inventory. Second is the real estate sector. No, we are seeing that here in Metro Manila, for example, office space vacancy are at about 17% going into 2022 and perhaps to 2023. Why? Because the POGO workers left. No, there are about 500,000 POGO workers at one time pre-COVID. No, and now practically most of them have already gone. And so these offices are vacant, and some of the residential condominium here in Metro Manila are also vacant. So how do you fill up all these offices? That's like, trying to look for 400,000 people to occupy these offices. No, it will take time. No, the BPO sector is a sector that is growing, but looks like every year they're able to, grow it by about 100,000 or so. But it takes time for the multinational companies to set up the logistics, to hire people. So, it will take time. So for the real estate developer, who comprise a big part of the capital expenditures and expansion money that's being spent on the economy, they are actually postponing some of the projects. No, marami silang projects, pero they're starting to build them. They are postponing it. No, and by postponing it, they don't need to get so many workers hired, and that's actually impacting also the jobs market. No, so that's one of the things that we're seeing now. Confidence. And the plans of expansion, of companies, these are some indicators that we look at that may potentially push back some of that big projects, no, until consumers come back and other businesses come back. Okay, next slide. So when we talk about Philippine GDP, there are these trends that we're looking at. No, first, the vaccination, herd immunity of 70% at least of fully vaccinated will probably occur by this first half of 2022, and potentially the boosters will follow through also. No, I think one of the things that are now we're seeing is some of the boticas or drugstores are already a site where vaccination can happen. So hopefully that will continue to be rolled out, and that will make it easier for people to get vaccinated. No? The third item is banking sector. It is very important for the banking sector to be in good condition, no? Because This way, when the time comes to be normalized, they will be able to lend. No? So they're very well. The non-performing loans are below 5% as an industry. Nothing like what we saw in the Asian financial crisis, or not bad at all. No? And they're well capitalized thanks to the BSP, who really made sure that the banks have a lot of capital. So between the banks and the real estate sector, if they're okay, then we will be able to really resume our strong GDP growth in the future. No? Fourth is the overseas remittance, which remains to be healthy. We said about $30 billion. So that's very good. No? We're worried before na baka bumagsak siya, but so far that has not been the case. No? And lastly, consumer confidence. No? We show you that mobility index in Google, that people are really raring to go out, no, and be able to spend and go to the places that they used to go. We believe that that can happen again once we see the infection rate go down, and that can provide that, pump in the economy and see that rise in that GDP. So for this year, we look for GDP to grow at 6.6%. And what does that mean? It means that our GDP will be regaining the 2019 level of 19.5 trillion pesos by the end of this year, if that is achieved, yung 6.6%. No? So that's a very important number. Now, of course, there might be issues about, more virus issues and all that. So that could potentially go towards next year if that's the case. But so far, we're saying there's that potential for us to grow 6.6% this year, plus may election pa, may konting spending, not the same spending as before election, previous election, but there's some spending, so that number probably could be good. Okay, next slide, please. Now, of course, as we start to recover and try to normalize, we find that there are some changes also on the policy rates. No, so we said already that the 2022 growth will be higher than this year potentially, and be able to regain the 2019 level of GDP, and inflation to be moderate versus that of last year, where it exceeded 4%, and we're seeing 3% this year. No, nonetheless, we expect the central bank to start raising policy rate, no, at least by 50 basis points, no. As inflation is at 3% at nasa 2% yung policy rate niya, napakalayo, no, parang it's not commensurate to that, no. And our GDP at 6.6% may be already a good signal for them to raise policy rate, no. But also, the central bank in the US is starting to raise rates this year, no. Could be very aggressively also to catch up because their economy has been booming, no. So here we see that there's a potential for the PSP to raise policy rates higher, and the peso to weaken, no, to 52 pesos by the end of the year. Pero may upside risk yan, no? Ibig sabihin, pwede lumampas ng 52 pesos because itong inventory na nabenta ng mga negosyo, they need to resupply it, and they need to probably import some of those, inventory. So that will be a big demand for dollars, no? Overall, what we're going to see, and we've already seen this, is that interest rates in the market will go up, no? So the blue line on the graph here is the 2021 end of the year yield curve, no, from the overnight rate of the BSP going out to the 20-year GS, no. So from 2020, which is your black line, umakyat na siya by 2021 to the level of the red line, which is your 2019, no. And we could potentially see this blue line continuing its move higher towards that red line, no, and maybe even exceed that for the longer part of the yield curve, no. So for many businesses, of course, this is not welcome, especially if growth is not yet that sustained and comfortable. So this is a situation where the BSP governor will have to now really adjust according to what the tempo is of growth at that time, no? And this is a balancing act that the central bank governor will have to do. Okay, so be prepared for higher yields. Next, so equities, we find that our markets here, no, if you look at the graph on the right, we haven't gotten back to that 2019 level of 7,815. No, we are currently ended the year last year at 7,122. So kulang pa tayo. There's room for us to actually move up higher. And so far in 2020 and 2021, we have gone up, but not yet achieved that 2019 level. So we hope that this is the year that we will achieve that positive return this year. Because last year, it was just zero ang kanyang return, no? So equity, so wala siyang binigay na return. Investor sentiment in foreign investors are shifting their focus from US to Asia because it's more reasonable valuation. There might still be some downside risk, no, sa ating equity market because of the Omicron impact or some variant impact, and the Fed, central bank in the US tightening policy rates and liquidity. No? However, there are some positive things to look at. Many of the conglomerates, they're buying their shares back again because they find that it's cheap. So that's supportive of the stock market price. There's also some mergers and acquisitions going on. And also the foreign investor holdings here in the market is very, very low, historical low. No? So any little money that they put into our market back here may pump up the index higher back to 7,600 to 7,800. No? So we believe that the equity market has room to go up, and potentially it can go up to the level of 7,600. Okay. So having said that, I think when we go to the next slide, your investment in the fund, the BPI Invest Bayanihan Fund, has been actually still good. No, the past 3 years. No, 2019 being the best year at 8%, followed by 2020 at 4.6%, and 2021 1.1%. Why only 1.1%? Umakyat kasi yung yields in the secondary markets, no, as we mentioned a while ago. And whenever yields or interest rates go up, the bond prices go down. So nonetheless, you know, we are not that bad. We still incurred a positive return, and this year we also expect another positive return this year. No? But overall, in the past 3 years, on a per annum basis, it's almost like we're growing at a 4.8% clip. No? Or overall return cumulatively, 13% for your investment, no, in the fixed income market. So lastly, of course, you know, this is the election season. And we highlight that, you know, this pandemic has really brought damage to our fiscal plans. No? The past 15 years where we were building up our growth and lowering our debt. No, now we're back to the 2005 level. No, our debt to GDP is back to 60%. No, so we will the next administration have a challenge, a strong challenge of being able to bring back down that debt to GDP below to the previous pre-pandemic level of 40%. No, but trying to grow our economy is something that is a big job, generating jobs. And part of that generating jobs, they may really have to put incentives for foreign investors to come set up business for us. And therefore, we've seen some of the laws that are being revised, such as the Foreign Investment Act. So it's easier and cheaper for businesses abroad to set up business here in the Philippines. No? Building climate change resiliency is very important. We saw that Typhoon Odette hit the areas where, like Cebu, hindi naman talaga tinatamaan yun ng malakas na bagyo. No? But because of climate change, now they're getting hit. No? But that takes money to recover and repair a lot of those damage. And that's being spent by the government and the private sector. The money that they could have spent for expanding their business, now they're spending it to just repair. No? So this is something that we really have to be prepared of. We talk about national debt have risen, so now we have to bring it back down. And what does that mean? The government has been a big factor in terms of our growth every year. Do they have to cut their budget for the next few years to be able to bring down that debt to GDP? That's one of the big decisions that the new administration will have to take. And lastly, we know that virus tend to come in and out, and we saw how our hospitals can actually all look at putting all COVID people and not take care of the other major diseases, no, you know, heart issues or cancer or whatever. So you really have people, you know, inadvertently dying as a result of that. And we also talk about how our fertility rate or birth rate has gone down because walang hospital capacity, no? So these are all interlinked when you look at it. And it is important that we vote for the candidate who can address all these major challenges that we will see in the medium term for our country. Okay, so that's the end of my talk, and I'd like to say Happy Chinese New Year to everyone. It's the year of the tiger. And hopefully everybody stays safe, and I hope to see you again next year. Hopefully in better year. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Smith. You always delight us of your analysis and take of our economy and the investment market. And we're talking, baka next year we need to have a panel session with you para we can ask really the hard questions. And thank you also for the tips for the coming elections. Sige.
Yeah, salamat.
Maraming salamat, Smith, and the BPI AMTC team for working with us in our investment needs. So maraming salamat ulit. Okay, so that would be the end of our discussions for this morning. Pero after yung closing nitong program, we will be sharing a recorded presentation on the economic and the social benefits of mutual microinsurance from the study of UK's University of Cambridge. This is a result of an impact study following Typhoon Haiyan in 2013. Typhoon Yolanda locally. Dr. Ana Gonzalez Pelaez will share the results of the research, and we will play that later after our program. But before that, let me take you to our last session this afternoon. Session 4 at 1:30 p.m. later will take up the future work in the post-pandemic world and the strategies being implemented to improve the employment environment towards attracting and retaining talents. So I think this was a very good morning. Our discussions very, very helpful, informative. And thank you, everyone. Enjoy the recorded video presentation that we'll show you after this. And we will see you at 1:30 p.m. We'll keep this Zoom room open. Maraming salamat at happy lunch po sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this National Microinsurance Forum. I am honored to share this space with you all. I admire very much the breathtaking work you do in your communities, which I had the privilege of witnessing. I can also see in your list of invitees many friends and collaborators of us at the University of Cambridge Institute for Sustainability. Such a joy to be with all of you again, and special greetings to co-panelist Dr. Aris Alip, without whom the study that I am going to speak about would have not had happened. Once again, thank you, Dr. Alip, for your vision and trust, and for giving us permission to interview CARD MBA's policyholders, as well to study in detail and publish operational information of CARD MBA. Thank you again to your team who spent many hours with us, especially CEO May Dawat, Lani Viajante, as well as Remansi, Junjay Perez, ICMIF, and the very impressive advisory board to the study. Whenever I have the privilege of talking about this study, I like to renew, on behalf of the University of Cambridge, CISL, our deepest gratitude to the people in the provinces of Samar and Leyte who generously opened their homes and their lives to us, answering very personal questions about their finances and their way of life, and recalling very painful memories of Typhoon Haiyan. We did this study 5 years later. Many even took a day off work to speak to us, and thanks to them, we have been able to assess the impact of microinsurance on the Sustainable Development Goals. I am now going to share my screen. This is the cover of the report, Mutual Microinsurance and the Sustainable Development Goals, an Impact Assessment Following Typhoon Haiyan. The study took 2 years, and it was the first insurance impact assessment ever done on the Sustainable Development Goals. For that reason, we invested a great deal of time developing the right methodology. That in itself took 1 year, during which we analyzed existing microinsurance impact assessments, as well as microinsurance data collection and microinsurance assessment techniques. We did an initial survey of 120 households and to inform the development of the questionnaire, and a final survey of 160 households, in total 280 households, insured and not insured, and 125 questions per household. And we carried out the interviews in partnership with a Remansi team led by Junjay Perez with support from ICMIF. The results are fully available online at our website, and if you type the name of the report on the page where the report can be downloaded, there is also a link to the questionnaire and to all the responses that we had from the people we interviewed. The impact assessment framework, so it was divided in 3 big blocks. One was a mutual microinsurance at times of crisis. The first, we were specifically assessing how people had recovered from Typhoon Haiyan and what role insurance had played. We asked general questions, such as losses during the typhoon, the type of insurance at the time, the purchase power with the payout, and other help available. Claims process, difficulty in making the claim, clarity in what the claim could have been made for, and resilience. This was a significant part as well of the questionnaire, back in pre-Haiyan levels or not, the role of insurance, the children going back to school, other recovering methods. The value of insurance, interesting insurance, more insurance products or not since the typhoon, and very specifically other advantages of insurance if no payout. We divided the households in 4 groups. One group had received a payout. Another group was insured, but it had not received a payout as we were looking into life insurance. Luckily, nobody had died in their household. The other group was not insured at the time of the Haiyan, but they are insured now. And the 4th group were not insured at the time of the Haiyan, and they are not insured now. And we have analyzed the results across all these different groups, and we have published in the report also a detailed table and set of pages with how the different results from the different groups compare with those obviously who had access to a payout, or that they had access to microfinance at the time. So both of them, they recover much faster than those that were not part of the financial system at all when the Haiyan when disaster took place. The part 2, so is microinsurance at normal time. So a big part of the questionnaire wants to understand how people perceive insurance, what kind of value they get out of it at times when there is no payout at all, and how they understand it, what the policy means to them, how confident they feel about it, the the differentiation between the different parts of their financial product, and also risk behavior. Since joining the organization, what kind of improvements have they had? So this part impacts the goals here below, and I'll just very briefly come back to them in a moment. The final part of the report, of the questionnaire in particular, ask questions on the pillars of mutuals. For this, we have followed the 5 pillars defined by the International Association of Insurance Supervisors that distinguish mutual operations with 5 elements that other insurance operations do not have. And through these questions, we wanted to know how people, if the mutual angle made a difference to people, and what it meant in their lives, and how they appreciated it or not. The questions were, as I mentioned, so by pillar, we asked questions such as sense of ownership, general knowledge, fraudulence, referring to friends or not, the democracy, this participation, complaint mechanism channels, as well as to express their views and to be part of the process, of the decision-making process, if created to serve a defined group, solidarity, and not for profit. Goals impacted 11 and 16. So, goal number 1, we particularly found target 1.5. So what we did in all these goals, so we gathered all the results from the ground. We selected them in groups by themes, depending on which particular sustainable development goal they were contributing to. Through that process, we were able to conclude that the goals impacted are the following ones, with the points suggested here below. These points actually are summary headlines from the results and the answers the people gave us. Low income and under the poverty line members, life insurance payouts to protect the family after loss, integrated microfinance and microinsurance, a very important component of the card group success, and also a very important component of people's true freedom to recover and to recover at times of crisis and to progress in normal times. Members organizing community centers of up to 30 policyholders. Next goal impacted is the health, is target 3.8 in the health goal, access to quality and essential healthcare services and affordable essential medicines. Card MBA members, through card microfinance, they have access to free medical checkups, discounted medicines, access to network of trusted healthcare providers, and partnership with government's social healthcare program. Next goal 4, quality of education, ensure inclusive and equitable quality of education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Huge strength of CARD MBA. The weekly, particularly anchor in the weekly community center meetings, and people reply to us, these subjects are of great value to them. The mutual has a network of well over 100,000 centers. In many cases, it's the policymakers' own houses, and they meet once a week. They collect payments, receive financial education, training and governance. They give feedback on products and services. They learn about disaster risk reduction. And we have witnessed this during our research in Tacloban, and it's a remarkable experience of community building around insurance. The next goal is going to be goal number 5, yes, gender equality. two targets here. Target 5.5 and 5.8, ensure women's full and effective participation and equal opportunities for leadership, give women equal rights to economic resources and financial services. Again, the answers were very clear on the enormous transformation that empowerment of women had given not only to those women, but to their full family. They became economic participants in their households through access to loans and insurance, and they became entrepreneurs and recipients of scholarships, leaders in their community through volunteer positions in the mutual, and participants in institutional governance if elected to the board of trustees. Goal number 8, target 8.10, and this is the home of insurance, this goal. This is where specifically insurance is mentioned in the Sustainable Development Goals. Encourage and expand access to banking, insurance, and financial services for all. As I mentioned, we did not only look into payouts, which obviously will make a difference at all times, but we looked into the non-payout benefits. And these are the responses that we had. Feeling more secure, increased community support and collaboration, improving financial knowledge, home assets, knowledge on health risks, knowledge on disaster risk reduction. Knowledge is a word that the people who contributed to our work kept repeating. The value of knowledge made a transforming difference in their lives. To know what to do at time of crisis, preventing, and for prosperity as well. Being able to pay for children's education. Understanding insurance and mutual sharing. Goal number 8, target 10.5, improve regulation and strengthen the implementation of such regulations. As you all know, CAR, the MBA, has a long history of collaborating with the Philippine regulator to advance a supportive regulatory environment for mutual microinsurance in the Philippines, which is a leading example in the world. Goal number 11. Here we have specifically put the pillars of mutuals, because this goal is about sustainable communities, it's about making human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So the solidarity pillar of the mutuals, the created to serve a defined group pillar of mutuals, completely at the core of community building. And the answers are in great detail on our website. Target 11, climate action, so goal 13. So this is the goal about climate change and all its implications and the climate emergency we are facing, and that very sadly the Philippines is at the heart of, and suffering. Significantly reduce the number of deaths and the number of people affected, and substantially decrease the direct economic losses. Post-disaster interventions, we had payouts and fast claims validation, aid delivered through community networks, financial advice and moratoriums. So post-disaster interventions, once the disaster has happened, and we found how the community network just immediately was able very quickly to reach out to people, and with all these different advantages just mentioned. But at times also before disaster takes place, risk reduction, disaster preparedness training to members, and early warning messages to members were highly valued and constantly mentioned by people as part of a crucial piece of value that they get from their insurance program. Goal number 16 targets this goal. Again, we go back to the mutual pillars here. In this occasion is membership, ownership, democracy, not for profit. They create an organization, they create people, entire networks of people who are able to contribute through their through their ownership and governance, through the electing their board of trustees, through participating in policy making and satisfaction service, through the weekly feedback on products and services that they give in their center meetings and very much value. They are able, through all of that, to impact Goal 16 very, just very directly, very much at the individual, at the community level, on all these targets: reducing corruption, developing effective and accountable institutions, and ensuring responsive, inclusive, and participatory representative decision-making at all levels. Finally, this goal also is very important in current times, and especially with the climate emergency: encourage and promote effective public, private, and civil society partnerships. CARD MBA does that through regulation, distribution networks, and capacity building. Finally, impact assessments are indeed very difficult and costly, and at all times of this work, during the 2 years, we had in mind to think about easy and practical ways that could be used in other studies by other organizations. This slide, I'm not sure it can be seen properly on your screens, but it's on page 49 of the report, and it offers a list of established operational and social indicators for microinsurance, and combined with specific as well for mutuals. But these possible indicators offer a practical and tested way on how an insurance operation of any type can demonstrate their contribution to relevant SDGs. In our experience, CARD MBA have been real pioneers in thinking about their work in a Sustainable Development Goals framework. Before the impact assessment I just summarized, CARD collaborated with us already in 2014, 2015, when we did at the University of Cambridge, CISL, the first study ever published on how insurance could actually contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. This was the time when the SDGs were being negotiated and launched. Then the impact assessment, as I mentioned, took 2 years. We started preparing it at the end of 2016, only 1 year after the SDGs had been launched, and around the time when Philippines adopted the SDGs in their national plan, in their current national plan. The world governments, companies, NGOs, donor agencies have been increasingly aligning themselves with the SDGs. They are a helpful framework and a common language to develop important public, private, and mutual partnerships that are usually necessary in these kind of programs, reaching out to hundreds of thousands, millions of people. We saw this in the latest Intergovernmental Climate Summit in COP26 that took place last November in Scotland, in Glasgow. We at the University of Cambridge, CISL, worked with regulators, policymakers, and industry to present a call to action. If I share my screen again, I can show you what it looks like. Yes, so this is the piece of work that we presented at COP26 after working with very senior regulators and policymakers and also members of industry. We emphasize, the main message is that the key idea to manage climate risks properly is that we have to share them, and we have to share them at a scale within countries and among countries in a public, private, and mutual risk-sharing continuum. And mutual microinsurance is an essential part in the transition to resilience and to net zero for all. And we recommended at COP26, and will carry on doing so, explicit targets of coverage and support need to be included in national adaptation plans. Thank you again for having me. I am sorry I cannot join you in the discussion, but please, if you have any questions or comments, I would be delighted to hear from you. I am happy to answer by email or to jump in a Zoom or a Teams call. Thank you so much again, and wishing you a very successful rest of the conference.